Welcome to Movie Dumpster Season 7, Episode 12. Today we're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, Dream Warriors, directed by Chuck Russell from 1987. Is this the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel? Pretty sure, but we'll see. I'm Joe Lascola.
And I'm Sean O'Rourke.
Welcome to the dumpster! We're the Dream Warriors. We're not gonna dream no more.
Playing the instrumentals in my head, of course, because we can't put it in the video.
You gotta kick up the fucking docking, man. I know we can't play it. That's why I wanted to serenade you a little bit, because we can't. We'll get demonetized.
Right. Well, right. Yeah. Prepare people for what we're about to get into. We're finally, again, after 7 seasons of this show. Well, 6.5 technically.
Yeah.
We're finally on a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and we're doing one of the best ones.
Yeah. Maybe tonight we'll be gone.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
Gotta learn some tips from Will, that wizard master shit, but I'll actually not get killed instantly. I won't run right after Fred. We'll get to it.
I'm the wizard master.
Yeah. I'll take that power. What was it? That like 5 or was it one of the other sequels? Was like the comic book one.
That was 5.
Okay,
yeah,
that was always kind of interesting to me, even though Freddy just instantly destroys the guy.
Well, you get Super Freddy.
Super Freddy, right?
We talked about that on Hack the Movies with Tony. But we did this episode in the dungeon.
Yes,
if you recall.
Yes, Hack the Dumpster.
Hack the Dumpster. Yeah,
definitely check that out if you want to hear our thoughts on that movie. Not to just go instantly into plugs, because I know we want to kind of set this up. But just on that note, if you also want to hear our thoughts on Freddy's Dead, we did a watch along. We also had the 3D portion at the end. If you got your glasses, patrons. If not, you can wear 3D glasses and watch the end.
This is also true. Now, we didn't do a full review of Freddy's Dead because we don't think that movie deserves a full review, but
it's in the dumpster. There's your review.
It's
I fucking hate
it. We did talk about it a lot on that watch-along, if you want to check it out, like Sean said. It's also, I noted it on the Patreon watch-along, that is the only place, if you don't have the Nightmare on Elm Street DVD set that I didn't put on the table that's upstairs...
Right, the box set that came out a while back.
Yeah, the box set that came out a while ago. That's the only video version besides the Laserdisc that has the 3D intact.
That is crazy to me.
So you can't find it. It's not on the Blu-rays. So I spliced it into the Blu-ray version for the watch-along. And I kind of adjusted it as much as I could to make it as best quality as I could, but yeah.
So $5 or $10 tiers on Patreon, patreon.com/movie dumpster if you want to check that out. Hey, just to see the watch along, it was a lot of fun, or just if you want to see what the hell we thought, or a little bit of both, check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, because we were supposed to do Nightmare 3 episode was supposed to come out in conjunction with that watch along.
Right.
But, things got shuffled around, so here it is, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Long time coming, Joe.
It's been a long time coming. We covered that one on Tony's show, like we just said, and we did the watch along, but we really haven't touched old Freddy, old burnt nutsack over here.
Yeah, we've gone deep into Michael Myers' fucking history for some reason.
even Friday the 13th, but we haven't covered any of those either.
That's the next big slasher franchise I'd like to maybe go to at some point. Hellraiser maybe in between there. Depends on how shit shakes out. You know how that always goes. But I guess that might be the next big one if we do another... big slasher, for lack of a better term, franchise.
Yeah, because I didn't get a chance to talk about Friday 5 on
You've been saying that
Tony's
for a while.
show. I talked about, what did I talk about? 7, 8, and 9 on his show, I think.
Sounds right. You did a couple I think you did 1 or 2 episodes.
I did 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But not the installment that I wanted to talk about. Well, we were going to do 5 on our show. We did it on Tony's, so there's that.
Freddy, right, yeah.
Freddy, of Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yeah, we decided to talk about the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel?
We're going to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. But before we swallow the big pill of Hypnocil, if you want some more Movie Dumpster content, you can head over to patreon.com/movie dumpster. You can get an ad-free audio version of the show for only $2 a month. And you can get some other great stuff at the $5 or $10 tiers. We have a bunch of swag you can grab, commentary tracks, minisodes, live watch-alongs with us, the replays, that is, a whole back catalog. So if you want to do that, support your favorite show.
And if you're watching here on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe if you're not already, and share it with your friends. It really does help get the word out on the show. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, please leave us a like and a 5-star review if you got the time. Get the show out to more folks, into more eardrums, eyeballs, and everything in between. And let's grow this dumpster community. Keep it going.
Like we always say, you know, those reviews help us more than anything, more than you buying stuff from the store or signing up for Patreon. Those reviews really help. They really do very much. But if you want to find out what the Dumpster Boys are up to or what we got coming up on the schedule, you can head over to moviedumpsterpodcast.com. You can also get the feed there if you want. You can jump on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, either Apple or Spotify. The links are all there. And again, we have the store on there too. So there's a bunch of different stuff if you want to jump over there and check it out.
With that said, I've known you for a long time, so I'm very familiar with this Freddy Krueger statue you have here on the table and this beautiful glove signed by Robert Englund himself.
This is true.
But for the dumpster dwellers that maybe haven't heard you talk about this already, Joe, what is your past with A Nightmare on Elm Street?
You know, it was there just like Jason and the Friday the 13th films. I mean, I prefer Jason. He's my boy.
I like both, but I think I like more of the Friday movies than the Nightmare movies, so I can see that.
I know you're a bigger Freddy fan, though.
Yeah, I like Freddy as a character more, but it's that Michael Myers thing, which I'll probably talk about in the episode, where it's just like, I feel like it deviates so much from that original concept the further you get away from it, whereas Jason, the only real major deviation is 5, and he comes back as a zombie, but he's basically Jason.
Yeah, you know, he's one of the heavy hitters, man. He's up there with Leatherface and Jason, like I said, Michael Myers. So, like, when I was growing up, I mean, that was the first introduction to stuff. You know, you had Chucky, you had Jason, you had Freddy, you had Michael, Leatherface. They're the essentials. They're the essential pack, you know, horror pack when you're a kid.
Especially the 80s block, which, you know, a lot of those movies we talk about from the 80s, but it's like, those are the ones, the horror icons, icons of horror.
But these movies were still coming out when we were born and we were growing up, you know what I mean? So not only do we have the movies from the 80s that kind of carried over that we watched, but we actually grew up as these movies were coming out. Like there was a new Halloween, a new Nightmare, and a new Friday the 13th while we were still growing up, you know, which was pretty interesting.
Child's Play too, honestly.
And Child's Play too.
Scream.
Yeah.
I know you're not a big Scream fan.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Throughout the 90s too.
We covered a couple of those, or one, and we did a ton on Tony's show. You just look those up. We covered pretty much every one of the fucking movies.
And we did a commentary track on 3.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, Freddy's just been a staple, and I do like Freddy a lot. I don't think we really talk about him a lot because it's such a mainstream thing, and you know, I do love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but like there's so many other movies that I feel like don't get enough attention, and that's kind of the point of the show. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they do mean a lot to me, and they were a big part of my upbringing and kind of jumping into the horror pool, and I think they are of mostly everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're just watching totally just modern stuff and you're not going backwards, but
even up until the 2000s, there's still
Freddy vs. Jason, yeah,
but and then the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and then the
Friday remake,
Chainsaw remake,
all these remakes. Oh my god,
the Platinum Dunes,
Hellraiser.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. So he's just a big staple in the zeitgeist. I've watched all of these a lot, and I watched them even more. I remember getting the DVD set. I had a few of these on VHS, and then I completed my collection later. But like that big box set that had come out, that's upstairs. That I don't know why it's on the table. And I don't feel like going upstairs to get it, but it's up there.
Sure, yeah. Maybe we'll throw an image on the screen.
Yeah. That I watched all the time. Like I watched through it, and I
went through each disc.
Yeah, because like especially in my teens, like rewatching them all and kind of putting them into mix. You know, they were almost like comfort movies and stuff. And you know, I can recite a lot of these movies.
Sure, well,
you know
the
what I mean?
one-liners are great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like that's where that comes from. And 3 was always my favorite. We could talk a little bit about that later, like the rest of the series in a second. But specifically, 3 was my favorite. And I think it's the best sequel. It was kind of the perfect storm of everything. And what was really cool was like, you know, I go to these conventions all the time, and they had like a Nightmare 3 reunion.
Oh shit.
They had like Jennifer Rubin, and they had Ken Sogs, and they had who else was there? You know, they didn't have Patricia Arquette there, you know, but it was still fun to meet them. And they signed my poster and stuff. I met Joey too, the guy who plays Joey, and of course Robert Englund.
Joey.
Yeah, of course Robert Englund. And if I can find the pictures, I'll throw some up on the YouTube version or whoever's editing this. He's just an icon. Freddy's a fucking icon.
He's an icon.
He's an icon. You know, you know.
I just was curious if you wanted to expand on that.
I feel like such a dumb shit talking about it because I'm trying to figure out what to say that hasn't already been said, and it's very difficult.
It's Nightmare 3. Let's not try to think about that too deeply.
No, I meant Nightmare and Freddy as a whole. You know what I mean? And the legacy that Robert Englund has left behind.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I just think It's incredible, and he's an incredible dude, and he's really sweet. If you ever get a chance to meet him, definitely meet him. I mean, I think his fucking autograph's like $100 goddamn now.
Maybe just say hello to him.
I met him when it was like $15, and the line was 20 minutes long, not 7 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But and I got the replica. This is Friday, Jesus Christ. This is Nightmare 3, specifically the glove from Nightmare 3, because that's my fave, and I had him sign that. But yeah.
I mean, I came to these movies when I was maybe a little too young for Sean, at least. I don't know how much I've really talked about this in a while, but I love my parents, but my mom was a little bit of a helicopter parent. Didn't really let me watch anything too violent. No wrestling, no Simpsons, no Beavis and Butthead. So I sure as fuck wasn't allowed to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. But I do remember this story when I was very young. In the Poconos with my grandparents in the summer. They would always get a house in the Poconos. And my, scanned my grandma to get me one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets because my buddy at school was always talking up, oh, they're nothing. That's baby shit.
Yeah.
He's like, he's one of the people that's watching it since he was an infant. Well, I'm just saying, he's accustomed to it. I've never really experienced it at that point.
It also depends on what scares you. Chucky scared the shit out of me. Freddy didn't never scare me.
Put it this way. I just said earlier in this review, I hate this movie, but it was Dream Child.
Oh, really?
Or, not Dream Child, Six.
6 is Freddy's Dead.
Freddy's Dead, excuse me. Got to the hearing aid scene.
Yeah.
That was it. Turned it off.
Oh, it scared the shit out of you.
Scared the shit out. I guess I thought I could handle it. I couldn't. I was like maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me for like 2 or 3 years after that. And then finally just in my teens, once I got to know Joe, and he was kind of, like I've talked about in the past, kind of started showing me some of these films. I got more into it, and I kind of ran the gamut many years ago, watched them all. And here we are now. One of my favorite franchises, again, kind of like Halloween, where I say that now, but then I start like thinking about all the movies in the franchise, and I'm like, well, I like more movies in this than Halloween.
You like Halloween and Michael Myers.
Yes.
Specifically the first film. The Shape, yes. Right.
Which I understand I don't know if I'm in the minority on that, but I feel like a lot of people are just like, well, he's got to evolve on some level or else it gets boring. And that's with all these movies. Well, even Ghostface on some level.
But Jason did it, and it was fine.
I know, he said that earlier. But he turned into a zombie.
It's more about the characters than it is about the main bad guy.
Which is what I like about Friday and Nightmare, generally speaking, is that I know not everyone's watching these movies for the characters. They want to see the kills. And I am there for the kills, too, and I know you are, too. But if the characters are good and the plot's good, you've already sold me on it more than some other films, and that's why I like... I mean, let's talk about just this film specifically. They kind of nail that here. Now, the first one, we're talking sequels here.
Yeah, but just to your point real quick, that's why you can come back to a lot of these movies, especially the Friday movies. And I've heard people say that, like, oh, it's just Jason killing people. It's like, nah, there's a pretty good plot up until...
Maybe 7, yeah.
Or 8, maybe.
Even 8 on some level. They tried some things.
I don't like that, but we can. That's a chat for another day.
Yes. But I was just saying, like, that first movie, it's one of my favorite slashers, period. I think the only thing that beats it for me is Halloween, which, maybe it's just because it's one of the first ones I watched that I really liked, and that's just kind of burned into my brain, Halloween.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like an incredible sequel. Like, they take all those ideas from that first film, and maybe not everything's perfectly translated, and we'll talk about maybe some of those things I don't feel like totally fit, but 95% of it, a large percentage of it, they fucking nailed it, and we're going to talk about why.
Before we talk about the director, I want to talk about Wes Craven.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, because Wes Craven...
Speaking of Ghostface!
Well, Wes Craven makes A Nightmare on Elm Street, okay?
Right, yeah.
And for him, it's a one and done. That's
it.
It's a fucking case closed. I made this movie. It's great. Excellent. Whatever. Then we get Freddy's Revenge, which is the sequel.
Which is pretty good, actually.
Which was totally dumped on and
for years.
It did not do well at all. It was, for the longest time, it was regarded as like the worst of the sequels. Don't even watch it. Skip it. Blah, blah, blah.
That's insane to me.
And like now it's gotten got a second life in the past 10 years, 10 to 15.
Well, there's all those, I can't personally relate, but there's a lot of those gay undertones in the film that there's documentaries about it, like you could read about it. And if you watch that movie, not that you have to think about that, but it kind of adds a little bit more nuance to it. I think that movie, the effects kind of really are incredible. When Freddy's coming out of that fucking guy's body.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, it's kind of blatant. The gay stuff's kind of blatantly obvious, but like, that's not even the best. That's not even like...
It's just, I think that's part of why it's been resurged in the last 10 or 15 years.
I also think it's like the Halloween 3 phenomenon.
A little bit,
It's like, I've always liked that movie, and I've always liked Freddy's Revenge, and it's one of those things where, like, I think it deviated so much, or did something different so much from what that first one was. It made him uncomfortable. There's a lot of homosexual undertones.
Sure,
it's kind of a weird thing where, like, Freddy wants to like manifest himself through what's his face.
Do you know if Wes worked on that one?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with it whatsoever. But that's my favorite Freddy makeup.
It does look good.
Which is by Kevin Yeager, and he comes back to do the makeup for this.
That makes sense then.
But yeah, I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is great. But at the time, they were like, no, we're going to pretend like that didn't happen. And Wes Craven was so pissed off that he came to New Line and was like, oh, I'm going to write this one. I'm going to write 3. Now, he doesn't direct it because he's working on Deadly Friend at the same time. He's got to fucking blow up Mama Fratelli's head with a fucking basketball.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I need to watch that.
Oh, you still haven't seen it yet?
No, I mean, I need to watch more Wes Craven because I do love him as a director and a writer, so I'm kind of slipping on that. I've seen all the screams, all the nightmares, but slipping on People Under the House or Under the Stairs, another one I got to watch.
Oh, People Under the Stairs is
That's
great.
him also.
I love that one.
But he was working on that movie, you were saying?
Yeah, so he only was acting. He was supposed to be a producer as well, but he was also the writer. So him and Brett Wagner wrote the script, and then he was supposed to produce it as well, executive produce it, and kind of have more of a hand in.
A hand?
It's a hand. We're gonna be doing that the whole time, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a boy!
You know, with how it's being shot, how the story's going, and what the changes to the script.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think one of the funniest things about that original script is that it was a meta thing where they were shooting a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and Freddy was like haunting the set and like killing him. And Wes got to do that with A New Nightmare and close out the series. Question mark.
Right. I mean, that might be the other one. I mean, I haven't revisited it in a minute, so I can't speak to it, but I remember that one also being one of the really good ones. I gotta probably rewatch it at some point.
You don't say.
No, it is. I mean, well, once Wes is involved and he has that idea, it's so original at the time.
Well, it's so funny to me because he tries to wrap up the story with this movie. And he's like, look, it's done. We did it. We this is a perfect fitting to this. That's it. It's done. Freddy's dead.
Right. You would
PS,
think.
Yeah. And then
and then a dog pisses on his fucking grave.
And then New Line was like, fuck you. Fuck you. More sequels.
I mean, they were making money. I understand from a business standpoint, but yeah, I'm like, come on, man. Like 3 was kind of as perfect of an ending as you're going to get of this storyline.
Especially like what this movie deals with that we'll get to.
Oh, so. Yeah.
So they had like a meta thing to it. New Line was like, no, we don't want that. So they rewrite it again. And it was like super dark. And it didn't have any of the nun stuff or Amanda Krueger shit. It was just Freddy was born in this farmhouse, ? Or some shit like that.
Right, yeah.
It was super serious. There was no jokes. There was none of that cheeky shit. And it's funny because like towards the end, the way that the ending goes is that Kirsten in this script, goes and like fights Freddy as a giant fucking fetus. And like ends up like stabbing him with his own glove, and it was just like this crazy shit.
Okay, I did read that at some point. Nancy was supposed to stab him with the glove in one of the versions.
She does in the final version. She does too. We're going to talk about that.
But that was supposedly going to be like, well, it just kills her, but then other shit happens. Obviously.
Right. So like it was just super dark, and it would have been way over budget. So New Line was like, oh, I don't know, Wes. Fuck, I don't know about this. So they grabbed fucking Frank Darabont,
right?
Famously, the amazing Frank Darabont,
one of the best
screenwriters and directors of our time.
I would agree.
And him and Chuck Russell get together, and they rewrite about 70% of Wes's script and get the final piece that we have right now. Now, what's funny about that too is John Saxon writes a script for part 3, and Robert Englund writes a script for part 3. Now, John Saxon writes his version, and his version's like supposed to be like a prequel. And it's,
I did see that.
And it's almost this kind of like sympathy for the devil thing, where like it turns out Fred Krueger was an innocent.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
But he ends up coming back and killing all the kids because, you know.
I say that, but it is kind of an interesting idea on paper, but goddamn with that, I just killed the franchise.
I'm 100% good on that. I don't think that would have been interesting. I mean, and then it's just kind of, then you feel sympathy for Freddy, and it's like, I don't want to feel sympathy for the bad guy.
It would taint the first 2 films at that point.
Not
at least the first one.
Not necessarily, but it would give more reason of why he's doing it, or not necessarily more reason why, but a totally different reason.
That's what I mean by that.
And then your whole perspective of it changes.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that doesn't really jive real good. But Robert Englund's script had something to do with like bringing like Tina, who Freddy kills in the first movie, like
Right.
the first death in the first movie. Her sister comes in, and like it's this whole thing where she fights Freddy, which is similar to what we get later in these sequels,
Oh yeah, a little
especially in like Dream Master. But most of that script was chopped up and used for the pilot episode of Freddy's Nightmares,
bit. Okay, yeah, I
which
did
is-
see that too.
which is
yeah.
pretty interesting too. I thought that was kind of.
Do you remember if that was? I mean, you watch it. I'm assuming. I know
Yeah.
you have the tape somewhere around.
Yeah,
here.
they're in the other room.
Do you remember if it's any good? Do you think the idea was interesting? Not to
I
put you
didn't-
on the spot. I'm just
well,
curious.
No, because I haven't. I'm going to be honest. I haven't like rewatched it, and I didn't rewatch it in
Sure,
preparation
yeah.
for this. I guess it's good.
I'd be curious. I'll check it out.
I'm sure it's fine. I know that at least that first episode's really good.
Just curious what Robert had in mind. I would like to see that.
Don't worry, we'll be getting to Freddy's Nightmares.
What, in 10 fucking years when we get through talks?
Dude.
Crypt and monsters?
Movie Dumpster season 20. We're talking fucking Freddy's Nightmares, baby.
Hold us to it. I get what you're saying, though.
But yeah, that's kind of the plan. So yeah, that's kind of like the whole the in a nutshell, the script process of how this
Sure.
movie was kind of born, and it was born out of the failure of the second movie, and they wanted to fix the franchise, quote unquote, or Wes wanted a fitting ending to his
Sure,
character
yeah.
because he didn't want to leave it like that, even though 2 fucking rules.
I mean, he's the creator of the character. Maybe he just didn't
Sure.
enjoy the portrayal. I mean, Robert Englund's still great in that film. And again, what did we just say 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
But
Makeup's great, and he's scary as fuck in the
Yeah.
second one.
and I'm glad that all that happened. Unfortunately for 2, I mean,
Yeah.
again, already said it kind of came back now.
And
But
there's an appreciation for it
Yeah.
now, which is great. I think it's getting its just desserts.
yeah, but I guess I'm just saying that. Unfortunately, that had to die at the box office for 3 to happen. That happens sometimes.
No, for sure. But it did so well that then they were like,
Right.
let's just keep making fucking Freddy movies until we shit the bed, which only takes one more
Literally.
sequel.
Makes enough money to make
yeah.
another one after that, but yeah.
So we got Chuck Russell behind the lens
Yeah.
for this one. This is his first feature-length film.
I actually was not familiar with Chuck Russell, and then when I read like what other movies he did, I was like, actually, I'm very familiar.
You are very familiar with Chuck
This, like,
Russell.
this guy might be one of my favorite directors. I didn't
Oh,
even
yeah.
know it.
So he does the remake of the '88 Blob.
Shawnee Smith classic.
which is so fucking good.
Arguably better. That's another one we got to come back on at some point. Compare that and the 50s version. 'Cause they're both great.
Oh, I would like to do that. That'd be fun.
I prefer the 80s one, but they're both great.
I prefer the 80s one because it's the contemporary version of the 50s one. So it's like, oh, this is like when I grew up, and that's like when my uncle grew
I
up.
just think the fucking blob monster's way more intimidating in that remake.
Oh,
with the
well,
tendrils, the pseudopods.
Exactly. Oh, man. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
you know-
it. We can go on a whole fucking
We
side
could.
tangent
Well,
about the
this
Blob
next
88.
movie is another one I want to cover is the fucking Mask.
There you go.
That's one of my favorite movies. Jim Carrey classic. I think that was one of the ones that came out at the same time period. He did Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura.
Yep. It was in that stint, and it's a comic book movie, which I think people
Right,
forget
yeah.
about. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I would be interested if we ever did cover the film just to talk about the comic because it is drastically different.
Yeah, but it also puts a new perspective on how you watch that movie
Yeah, I
too.
can see that. Yeah.
because he's kind of like an anti-hero
No, yeah,
almost, which is, I mean, it's nothing like the comic book.
Yeah.
but
He also did The Scorpion King. I call that out specifically. I don't know when it's coming out, but I was just on Dissect That Film for Mummy Returns. And
Sorry, I missed that. By the
Oh,
way,
you're good. Don't worry. They all yelled at you. They complained.
Excellent.
They
Thank
said
you.
that son of a bit. No,
Yeah,
they were
thank
like
you very
understanding, Joe.
Sorry about that, Brett and friends. I'll be on the next one.
But yes, he does the sequel to Mummy Returns, which watch that review when it's out to find out what I think about that film. Mummy 1's fucking amazing. Scorpion King, I remember liking it, but maybe just because I like The Rock and Michael Clark Duncan. But he did that. I don't know if it holds up.
I think it was pretty okay.
For what it was, yeah.
I mean, considering.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he goes into that monstrosity at the end of Mummy Returns. He doesn't go full fucking horrible PS3 CGI. So that's already an improvement.
Did you guys talk about? I guess it's
Yeah,
out
yeah.
by this point. But did you guys talk about the people who went back and like fixed it?
I don't remember, to be honest.
Oh man, yeah. There was like an
Brett might have brought that up.
there was
if
an
not.
effects team that went back and like fixed it, so it looked right.
I think that sounds familiar. Maybe somebody did talk about that.
Drastically improves that scene.
I still think, like, watch the damn episode to
Yeah.
get my thoughts. Sorry.
What's really cool too is that he just did the remake of Witchboard
I saw that. Is that
this
coming
year.
out?
It just premiered at Fantasia.
Did you hear good things?
I heard it was okay.
That's not good.
We are definitely going to be covering it for Ripe because Witchboard is something that I wanted to talk about. We briefly discussed Witchboard 2 on the Amy Dolenz interview because she's in that.
Oh, right. I watched.
So not Witchcraft, not the fucking 20,000 Witchcraft softcore porn movies. Which board?
I'll watch those too.
Yeah. Which board?
No, yeah, I watched. I mean, we could talk about it if we cover that remake, but
Which I think Witch Trap is part of that too.
oh, maybe
I could be wrong.
I just remember Witchboard. I liked it a lot, and then the ending was so fucking bad. It literally dropped 2 stars. I hated it
Really?
so much. I hate
Okay.
the ending of that movie.
All right, well, I think that would be fun to talk about, especially because it's such a weird one to remake that I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, we got to talk about
I was
this.
thinking that too when I saw that.
Yeah.
Could be good.
So I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully, he does a good job.
I mean, I have faith in him. I mean, there's a ton of other films on his IMDb that I'm like, I haven't heard of that, but he's got 4 or 5. I'm like, well, solid fucking movies. Why not?
Yeah, totally. Just a couple more things. The makeup effects team, again, this is one of the largest teams of all different kinds of people. Dude, we got Kevin Yeager coming back doing the Freddy makeup. We got Screamin' Mad George. We got Mark.
Oh my god! I didn't know he was on this.
Yeah, we got
George.
Mark Shostrom. We got Greg Canham. Jesus, who else is on this? Mike Brian Wilson and Doug Beswick is doing the stop motion. So we have like a fucking juggernaut of a team here. Again, just absolutely crushing with the effects. I mean, I watched this today and I was like, these have to be some of the best, not only nightmare sequences, but some of the best effects in the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do kind of a back-to-back to really compare, but I would agree.
I really think so. There is some great... I mean, you got everything going on here.
The variety, especially.
Between visual effects and stop motion and practical effects. I mean, just the fucking Freddy worm alone, or Freddy snake.
Thinking about
Holy
the snake.
Shit.
I think the only bad shot in the whole movie, and I don't even blame the effects people because I get what they're going for, is when he's got Philip with the ventriloquist doll. It looks a little shitty, but that's such a nitpick in the scheme of things.
Yeah. And just a side note I could talk all day about all the effects and shit and who worked on it, but I thought it was funny because Mark Shostrom does Evil Dead 2 the same year for 1987.
Holy shit.
Also my birth year, by the way. Two my favorite sequel and my favorite Evil Dead in the same year that I was born.
Came out with the Necronomicon and the glove on.
And Night of the Demons too.
Mom
on
Halloween.
Halloween. No,
oh god, your mom had the yellow eyes like Angela.
Pretty much, yeah. I would think so. Yeah. But if you notice in Evil Dead 2, when Ash goes into the shed, not the first time that you've seen the crossover between like Wes Craven and Sam Raimi, but like there's a Freddy glove hanging up in the thing. That's the fucking glove from this movie.
I know, I saw that.
Because people are like, I don't know how it got there. And I'm like, it was fucking Mark. It had to have been Mark.
Mark took it off the set. No one's going to miss this. They're not making another one.
Just pockets that shit, smuggles it out, hangs it right up in the shed. There you go. Done.
It seems like everyone was kind of joking around about it from what I read. It didn't seem like anyone was too pissed about it. So that's kind of fun to read stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the last couple things, I don't think I mentioned it before. I know that this was made because 2 was a flop, but they make this a direct sequel. To the first movie.
Right.
So it's like 2 never happened, kind of, which is kind of like the first instance of that happening in one of these franchises.
Right, of course, not to keep mentioning it, but Halloween kind of went totally nuts with that concept. But you're right, this is the first
Halloween
one I can think
deviates on the third one.
Yeah.
And Nightmare goes back on the third one.
And then they deviate on the 4th one, and they deviate on the 5th one, and then they deviate on the 6th one.
I'm just saying, when you comparatively, you know what I mean? And then there's the last thing I want to note is Angelo Badalamenti is doing the score. And yeah, man. And
what else is he known for? Because I don't recognize that name.
A little show called Twin Peaks.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Actually, now that I'm thinking about the melodies.
Yeah, he's done a lot. He's worked with Lynch on
Did you Blue Velvet?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, okay.
Actually, he did it the year before this.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, he worked with Lynch a lot and was like kind of like his go-to guy for a lot of stuff. But yeah, he did the Twin Peaks music. And
I've actually seen the fucking interview with him where he's talking. Now that I'm thinking about this guy, where he's talking about, I was talking to David, and I was writing the theme, and he's like literally quoting David Lynch, like, and then it gets softer and it gets harder. And it's like it's a great video. Look it up.
Does he have an Italian accent?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I said his name. I wanted to say his name properly.
Pretty sure.
But yeah, I really love the score in this movie. Some of it's not amazing or notable, but there's a few scenes specifically, like in the beginning when Patricia Arquette first goes down into the Elm Street house and like in the basement and gets the little girl.
Oh,
the fucking music there, it's like it's like I can't even replicate it, but it's fucking great. It's a really good piece of music that I like.
Yeah, I really like the music in this. But I didn't rewatch 2, like I said, but 1, just that fucking theme is iconic, and just the way that it kind of plays throughout the film, the different not angles, but the different variations of it throughout. Really just, for tension's sake, or if let's like cool down for a minute. Oh, Freddy's back. It's really well done in that first film. And this third film, even though it's very different, I just feel like they kind of do nail that vibe at least, where there's those ups and downs.
He brings back the Charles Bernstein.
It's in there, yeah.
The do. Yeah, that's in there, and it's like used sparingly, but still pretty well.
It's even kind of woven into the soundtrack a few times.
Yeah. There's 2 fucking video games based on this one.
Well, the NES one, yeah.
Yeah, there's the NES one, and then there's the Commodore 64 one.
I think it's like the same game, though, is it not?
No, the Commodore 64 one is in 89, so it's the year before. And you can play as all the Dream Warriors.
Yeah,
can
same
you do
as
that
the NES one.
NES
Yeah.
one?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have it, so.
Yeah, you got to use, you can play it one player, but you can get that like connector and play 4 people at once.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's just called A Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's based on 3.
Right, the NES one is called Nightmare on Elm Street, but I thought the Dream Warriors were like power-ups.
Maybe that's what
that you collect. It's almost like Castlevania 2, where you have to find like Dracula's parts, but you're finding like Freddy's parts, kind of.
Yes. I haven't played it in so fucking long.
Yeah, we should do that. I saw it and I was like, that might be a fun thing to stream for like Twitch or something.
Sure.
Or maybe on YouTube. So that's pretty much it. So you want to give a little plot crunch for Nightmare 3?
Sure. So after the first film ends, Freddy's defeated. We do have that weird dream sequence with Connor always liked to joke about when she gets pulled through the fucking door like soup.
Well, that's the first movie.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. That's right. We're not counting
Joe.
2. I forgot.
No, yeah, I'm skipping 2, unfortunately. And then flash forward to, I think it's 9 years later?
Yes.
And we get introduced to our new main character, Kristen or Kirsten. I'm still not sure. When I look her up on IMDb, it's Kristen, so that's what I wrote down.
It's Kirsten in the original script, and I think we'll get to it. Go ahead.
Okay. I kept thinking of Hellraiser with Kirsten. Not that multiple people can't have the same name. Anyway.
Kirsty.
Yeah, Kirsty, exactly. But yeah, we're introduced to her, and she is now Freddy's next victim, if you will. And in the process, they think she's just trying to kill herself, so they put her in this nut house, basically, with these other kids that are having a similar psychosis, or what they think is a psychosis, seeing these terrible things in their dreams, but also troubled kids on top of that. And she kind of creates a bond with them. And then Nancy Thompson, who comes back from the first film, who is now, she's a doctor, but she's kind of there as an intern.
She's more like a consultant.
Almost. Yeah. And then they kind of work together. Because Kristen has the power to pull people into their dreams to work together to fight Freddy and possibly defeat him. And then we kind of get the trials and tribulations of them trying to get to that confrontation, but the doctors and Freddy and everybody else in between them putting blockades in front of them. And that's kind of how you get your tension throughout the film, and it kind of culminates in this big dream. Shocker, in A Nightmare on Elm Street film. But that's the gist.
Yeah, man. I think it's really well written the way for the third entry in a series. I think it's like really well done, and the way that Wes comes back and kind of weaves this story is pretty great.
Yeah, I would agree. I still think it is kind of funny, and I understand actors got to get billed where they got to get billed.
Sure.
Totally ruined the fucking Nancy reveal. Heather Langenkamp's the first fucking name you see, and hey, she deserves it. I'm not saying she doesn't.
No,
but it's
for sure.
funny.
But even like John Saxon too, it's one of those things, because it's like, well, they wanted to be like, no, she's in it. Definitely go see this movie.
Yeah.
She's in it.
100%.
Yeah. This also might be the first movie that puts a quote in front. Like a
I couldn't remember if the first one did, and I just rewatched it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you because I didn't watch any other ones in preparation for this, and I'm almost positive. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive this is the first one to do that.
You might be right, because I did also rewatch some of the other ones recently. We just did that watch along, so I could be getting
They all
mixed up.
have quotes. This one's particular is The Sleep, Those Little Slices of Death, How I Loathe Them, which is Edgar Allan Poe, which is cool.
Okay.
I like that. So we're introduced to Patricia Arquette,
right,
who plays Kirsten or Kristen. It's Kristen for the rest of the movie, but particularly soon she calls herself Kirsten.
Maybe that's why I was confused, because I was writing Kirsten, then I switched it to Kristen in my notes. But I do think this is it's funny to me just because of the joke I'm about to make, but she's making the Thompson house from the first movie out of popsicle sticks.
1428 Elm Street, dude.
And the fucking stepfather's in the corner watching, giving her tips like, oh yeah, that looks good.
Well, he's in the nut house later, too.
Yeah, when he's escaped right now. He's in a room. They'll get him later. They'll bring him back to Puget Sounds. Don't worry, I have that joke written down, Joe.
Okay.
But yeah, he's critiquing her work.
He's like, wow, that's a nice birdhouse. Now what you got to do is cut off all your pubic hair and make yourself a beard.
Right, exactly. And then she's like, mailbox, what? And he's like, mailbox TV, Mr. Ed. Pulls out a fucking knife.
Somebody's activating him off screen
Well,
somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. Kirsten, she says the wrong thing.
Oh yeah, the fucking Winter Stepfather is activated.
Go check out our Stepfather episodes. We did 3 of them, all 3 of them.
Well, I think Terry O'Quinn's moving in on her mom because she's single, right?
The mom does come in to check on her, and I was thrown off a little bit here because I guess I just forgot that she's trying to stay awake because she's got the coffee on the table and everything.
Dude, she is fucking taking mouthfuls of instant coffee and chasing it with Diet Coke.
Oh my! Well, I guess it'll keep you awake.
Yeah, I guess.
But they're planting that seed instantly that Freddy's already a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stepfather could be downstairs because mom knocks on the door and he's like yells up, like, "You got any drinks, son?"
He's like, "Where do you keep the bourbon?"
Right. Oh yeah.
She's like, "I have a man here. I need to go downstairs."
Mrs. Parker, this woman's hilarious for the few scenes she gets. Like, she's a terrible parent, but the acting is just, it cracks me up. Just how out of touch she is with her daughter.
We do get some Doc in here too.
Do we?
Yeah, when she turns on the radio.
Right, to stay awake, she's got the radio going, and then, of course, she's already tucked in. She got that blanket up to her chin. You put that blanket up to your chin, I know this from experience. You're falling asleep.
She was so hell-bent on not falling asleep and then just lays down in bed and goes to sleep.
Well, it's also that thing, I mean, that's not the point of these movies, but if you ever, like, drink a lot of coffee or a lot of energy drinks over a span of period of time, like, they stop working as well.
It's called Crash.
No, it is.
Yeah,
It is. And that's, I feel like they don't have to say that. I'm overthinking it because that's how my brain operates, but I feel like that's what it is. She had so much damn caffeine when she got in bed, her body just said, "Fuck this, I'm shutting down."
Because also, up until this point, she's only been scared by Freddy.
Right, yeah.
And, like, it's been a reoccurring dream. That's why she's making the house and all that kind of shit.
To stay awake,
Yeah, but I love when she falls asleep and then we, like, pull out. And the way that they, like, the camera's regular speed, and then when it pulls out and shows the Elm Street house with the kids jumping rope, they, like, slow it down, and it's all, like, slow-mo. It's really cool. Like, a little in-camera trick I thought was neat.
Yeah, and, like, her bed almost looks like it teleports to the location of the Thompson house, and she's like, it's not the same thing, but we do have the jump rope kids, and we have the little girl on the tricycle, which is very creepy.
Oh, God, this little girl is so creepy. "Hi, what's your name?" And she goes, "Kirsten." She fucking straight up says Kirsten.
Okay, that's where the confusion began, Joe.
Yeah.
But then she follows this little girl with the tricycle, which I know later it has blood on it, but I think it might have blood on the wheels this time. No,
Not this time.
Well, either way, she goes in this fucking house and is like locked in it instantly.
Well, yeah, and she's like chasing the little girl. She's like, "Little girl, where are you?" Blah, blah, blah. She like runs downstairs into the basement. Like,
This is like Pinocchio's revenge. Come on, Pinocchio! Come on, Pinocchio! Come on, Kirsten! Come on!
The little girl is like, "This is where he takes us. Look." And the fucking furnace lights up and there's skulls and bones in it. It's creepy, man. It's really good. The fucking set design and the art direction in this movie is really great.
They nail the boiler room. Like, you thought it looked fucking sick in that first one, but they really just blew it out of
everything looks really good in this one.
Out of the park.
Freddy's home.
Right, you hear the scratching, the classic scratching on metal.
He's jangling his keys, opening the fucking door.
Yeah, no, he is.
I'm home!
So she grabs the little girl thinking, I gotta get the fuck out of here with this little girl. And she's running. Obvious dummy, but you're not gonna carry this little girl and whack her head against the fucking wall.
This is where the score kicks up that I really like at this part. But she runs through the fucking, the s'mores floor. It's like fucking marshmallow.
Tar.
Yeah, it's like tar.
And then she like kind of is getting away from Freddy, and she finds, I think even the little girl has like a one-liner, and she looks down and it's like Allie Oates from fucking Boneyard. Just a skeletal kid with the hair.
You're hurting me.
Yeah,
and he looks at her. It's totally that. It's totally that.
Drops her.
But right before that, there's a great scene because she runs into this room and there's all these kids in their pajamas like hanging by nooses.
Oh yeah,
and it pulls out. It's fucking cool. Like I was
souls
because like I was picking up all these.
It's the Lost Souls room, Joe.
It's the Lost Souls room.
Freddy souls
pulls the fucking the shade down.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because, or it's funny we're talking about this because, like, I'm watching this movie because, like, I'm analyzing it now for the show.
Yeah,
and I'm like, damn, that's fucking cool. That's awesome. Like, I totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah, the set design. I mean, is great in a lot of these films, even the ones that I don't like. They always kind of nail that element.
So she wakes up. She thinks she's awake, and she goes to the bathroom. And again, simple, easy trick. But like the mirror like goes dark, and Freddy appears, and the tap handles on the sink grab her hands.
Love that.
It's so cool. And like it twists her arm up, and then the other one becomes Freddy knives and fucking slashes her wrists.
Right, and that's where Mom walks in. Now she just thinks, my daughter tried to cut her wrist. She's going to kill herself.
Well, Patricia Arquette turns around with the razor, and she's like fucking Stan Uris looking at her arm, going like, oops, and then just passes out.
Right, she didn't get a chance to write Freddy on the wall.
Freddy in blood, yeah. Well, we left that for Scott Farkas in Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, okay. Forgot he was even in that.
Yeah. Smash cut to Weston Hills. psychiatric hospital.
Right,
which-
across the street is Puget Sounds. They're bringing Stepfather back.
Puget Sounds is right there.
Yeah, when they came to pick up Kirsten after she tried to kill herself, they said, "Who the fuck's this weird guy upstairs?"
Hey, does that guard work here with the weird beard?
That's my date. Don't worry, the mom. Yeah, the weird beard, the pube beard, right?
Yeah. This is Terry.
Yeah. No, he's locked back up in Puget Sounds, and we move on with the rest of the film.
No, he goes. This is where he goes. He gets fucking stabbed by Jonathan Brandis with a hammer, and then he has to get his face fixed.
Right, the Joker surgery.
The Joker
correct.
surgery. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
But yeah, she goes into this psychiatric ward.
Which is cool that they bring this back for Freddy vs. Jason. I thought that was like when you pick up all the stuff from that, like Ronnie Yu did a really good job like putting that all together for that movie. But anyway, we get introduced to Larry Fishburne.
He was still going by that.
Still going by Larry.
He didn't upgrade to Lawrence.
No.
Morpheus himself.
No.
Speaking of, also just finally watched that whole trilogy. Saw one like 20, 30 times. Love it. Finally watched 2 and 3, and I'm like, huh.
This was a mistake.
Yeah, I get what they're going for, but no. Anyway, yeah, he's kind of great. I kind of love his character where he's just an orderly that kind of watches over the kids, which is a bit of a trope, but he plays it well.
It's great. He's hanging out with the guy from The Burning, talking about fucking Big Mac Overdone.
Dude, he's hanging out with every fucking orderly that survives a slasher film that are like the smart ones, you know? All the other ones are dead already.
It's so funny, too, because it's almost like exactly like The Burning with that walking hallway
I was
shot.
thinking that, too.
And,
or I mentioned Hellraiser. I always think of Hellraiser 2. They have a lot of the psychiatric ward stuff in that.
He's like, I finally figured it out, Doc, because we're introduced to the doctor, Neil.
Neil Gordon, I believe his name is.
Neil Gordon. And he's like, I figured it out, Doc. It's the fucked up chromosomes. That's why those kids are dying, because their parents took LSD in the 60s or something.
Played by Greg Wasson, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't write down any of his credits, but that's him. The other doctor is...
Dr. Elizabeth something.
Yes, played by Priscilla Pointer. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Sims, who is a little bit more of a, not quite a Nurse Ratched type character, but definitely more by the book, doesn't want to take any chances with the kids' lives, which I understand.
She's not as ruthless, and you can kind of see where she's coming from, which I kind of like, because you don't just hate her because she doesn't understand what's happening and doesn't believe Freddy's a thing.
Right, but when we find out that she's just not even giving their argument a fucking shot in the dark and is just writing the kids off, that's when I'm like, well, logically speaking, I understand why she's doing that.
Yeah.
But when 9 kids are like, we had the same fucking dream, we never met before, I don't know, I'd be doing a study
She's
or
like,
something.
that's a fillet of do. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, she's the other main doctor. And they mentioned this Dr. Carver who's in charge. He makes an appearance later, don't worry. But for now, he's kind of a background character.
This whole scene, though, of them walking down the hallway is cool because we get introduced to all the characters. Not all of them, but most of them.
The main ones.
Yeah, you get introduced to Taryn, who's Jennifer Rubin, and Jennifer, who's Penelope Sudrow, Philip, who's Bradley Gregg, Ken Sogs plays Kincaid, and Ira Heeden plays Will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kincaid, probably my
and
favorite.
Rodney Eastman is Joey.
Oh, excuse me.
The mute.
Besides Nancy, because I think Nancy might be my favorite final girl, actually. Yeah. Not that anybody cares, but there's that information for you.
Well, there you go.
He's probably my second favorite character in this. Him and Freddy are fighting for those one-liners, man. I don't know who's got better ones in this movie, honestly.
Ken's pretty fucking great, dude.
Bert, pussy motherfucker.
Krueger, pussy!
Pussy face!
Yeah.
Where you hiding at, you burnt face pussy? Krueger, pussy!
Great character. We see him first. They kind of set up this idea that there's this quiet room, and he's in there because he's always kind of fighting against what they want him to do. I mean, they want to sedate the motherfucker. I don't blame him.
He's a hothead.
Yeah.
Which is funny because he got the fucking part by being crazy. Like,
I saw that.
Yeah, like he was like sitting out in the rain or some shit, comes in to audition for Chuck Russell, and like apparently the story goes, he was sitting waiting for like 2 hours to get fucking called, and he finally comes in and he's just like, all right, kid, show me what you got. And he's like, fuck you, and he went crazy, and he's like, you're hired, you're Kincaid.
It works sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the character.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. So, Kristen's committed for trying to commit suicide,
right?
And
for not sleeping, I guess, because that's what they're all there for on some level.
Because then we're getting introduced to Heather Langenkamp. She comes in. She's Nancy again, obviously from the first movie, and now she's like consulting or working with dream therapy or
That's what she says.
counseling or something like that.
She specifically says she is an intern, but you're right. She's a counselor for dream therapy because, again, all these kids are having problems with dreams. The main doctors don't put two and two together, but they're trying to be scientific about it.
I mean, it's dropped a little bit later. I guess we could talk about it right now, but like she's on Hypnocil.
Oh, the joke from the beginning of the episode. Oh, okay.
Yes, right. There it is. Yeah. So that suppresses dreams.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like she kind of found peace with that and wants to extend it to people that might be also having other problems.
Yes.
I think that's what we're getting at.
No, 100%. And I do love how that's revealed, though.
Yeah.
Because she's like walking with Neil. If it's not this scene, it's when they go out to dinner later. And like she drops her fucking purse and he just like sees the bottle and was like, Hypnocil.
And he's like, I'm going to just look at your fucking prescription drugs.
And Google it or whatever. Look it up in the medical system.
Dude, he's on fucking Ask Jeeves or some shit.
Dude, that is a fucking HIPAA violation, by the way.
Dogpile.com trying to look for this thing.
Yes, but you're right. The Hypnocil is her main point because it has helped her over the last 9 years.
So the reason she becomes hip to knowing that it's Freddy is because Kristen starts doing the nursery rhyme.
Right, when she first gets there.
Because they're trying to sedate her, and she's beating everybody's ass because she's like, I don't want to go to sleep, I don't want to go to sleep.
She even gets Gordon with the scalpel, I think, or something.
No, she cuts fucking Larry with it.
Oh, okay,
Larry Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne's name is Max in the movie,
yeah.
so Max, cuts his arm, and then Nancy talks her down, basically.
Well, she walks, I think she might even finish the nursery rhyme, but she's like, where did you hear that?
And she's like, oh no. He might be back, probably.
Yeah, immediately the smartest person in the room, of course, it's Nancy, who should be shocked at that one.
Well, seriously.
Speaking of Wes Craven, Shocker, that's another one I forgot to mention.
We should do Shocker, man.
Oh, God.
We should do Shocker and fucking the horror show back to back.
Sign me
That'd
up.
be a good one. So they have these groups therapy sessions, and we kind of find out that all the kids are sharing the same quote unquote delusion or quote unquote nightmare about this thing that they haven't really talked about yet, even though it's going to be Freddy. We're going to get to that later, but we might as well just tell you for the sake of the episode.
No, yeah. And again, once Nancy walks in with Kirsten doing the fucking chant, and then they're in this group meeting, and they're basically, like you just said, they're saying it, but they're not saying it because clearly all the kids have had this conversation privately and have tried to explain to the doctors.
And they don't believe them.
Right, and I think it's even Philip kind of goes off at one point. He's like, yeah, we told you this is weird. We all had the same fucking dream about the same guy, and you guys just don't listen to us.
Yes.
And they're like, Philip, calm down, calm down.
It's repressed memories and trauma. That's why you're seeing this thing or whatever. Because like they're like, yeah, let's not talk about this weird guy who chases us all in the same fucking dream.
Meanwhile, they also mentioned how one of their patients died because they cut their eyelids off so that they wouldn't fall asleep.
Yes, yeah, Jesus Christ, yeah. So we get little things here. We get introduced. Nancy meets Kincaid and Philip. And Phillips, he makes puppets and stuff like marionettes. Kincaid's just a wise ass. And I love it because Fishburne's like, in this cool breeze right here's Kincaid.
Yeah, him and Max kind of go at it a little fun banter between the two.
Yeah, I'm always in there because I don't want to see your ugly ass face.
I also like how Philip is like, yeah, my puppet should be made out of wood, but I think I'm going to hurt myself. So they're made out of bags or whatever.
They're made out of clay and paper mache or some shit.
They look kind of cool.
Yeah. No, they're awesome. Then you see Joey, who's the mute kid.
Guy,
they don't really ever tell you why he's mute.
I feel like it's a shock thing, but then he just literally only talks a couple times in the dream later. So I don't know. Maybe...
Well, that's his dream power.
Yeah.
That we'll
Does
get
he
to.
talk in the next one? Because he comes back.
He talks in the next one.
Okay, so maybe it is.
He like goes back home with his mom.
Okay,
the waterbed thing. That's the next.
God,
one.
right, the waterbed. Yeah. So maybe it's just a trauma thing.
Joey's always getting his fucking dick hard, man, because like he's chasing.
Can you blame him?
Well, he's chasing a hot nurse in this one. The model gets him in the bed in the next one.
True. He's not thinking. He is thinking with the pecker, not the brain.
Yeah, the old dingus.
Yeah. We Taryn. We also kind of find out more about her.
She was like a drug addict, or a heroin addict specifically. She's got like track marks all over. She was like in the gutter, and then she came to the psychiatric facility and got clean.
Do we meet like the other characters here too, like Max, or is that a little later? Because they have a couple group sessions in this film.
No, because Kristen's not fully moved in yet, so Nancy goes to see her mom and pick up her things, and she kind of pries into her mom about, was there any other things? Did she tell you anything about what happened or what was in the dreams? And she's like, I don't fucking know. Just get your stuff and get out of here. I'm rich and stupid.
But then Nancy sees the pop. Well, she goes into the room.
She goes into the room, and she sees the paper mache house, and she's like, "Oh fuck!"
Right, and then I think she goes to Kristen, and she's like, "Where did you see this?
Where did you
house?
see this fucking house?
That's my fucking house."
And like Kristen's like drawing the Elm Street house, and she ends up like falling asleep because Nancy like takes the house from there and like goes home with it to like study it or something, and also drops off her clothes at the psych ward.
Right, and that's when the tricycle, I should say, comes in with the blood on the wheels,
Which is so fucking cool. And then it melts in the middle of the floor.
and it starts screaming like a small child.
Oh, man, there's some creepy shit.
Yeah,
It's really cool. So, boom, she's back at Elm Street house.
She passes Angela.
She's
floating by.
Oh, yeah.
That shot they use in all the movies.
She's going to have a new party. She's down the street. Yeah.
It does look like kind of. It makes sense if it was shuttered for 9 years after. At least we know the mom died in her sleep. I guess we can infer that the thing that happened in the first movie where she's like pulled into hell by Freddy could have happened.
Right. And it's also the dream world version of it. We don't know what it looks like now.
That's true.
We definitely know that John Saxon and Heather Langenkamp are not on good terms and like kind of separated after the mother died, which they talk about later. So who knows what happened to the house.
It definitely, in the dream version, looks more almost like Myers house-esque, where it's all boarded up. It looks like no one's been in there in like 30 years.
This is the first time I think it looks like that in the series because they're still living in it in part 2, which we're not even counting.
Well, we'll count it as a. You should watch it. But
we'll count it in the series of movies.
Right, yeah.
Jesse, that's his name in the first movie. Or the second movie, too.
Yes.
So, yeah, she goes into the Elm Street house, and there's, like, a fucking pig on the table that, like, barks at her, which is pretty great.
Well, first it, like, looks perfect, and then it turns all rotten. It's pretty gross.
It's gross. And then, man, I'm telling you, I said it at the beginning of this episode, one of the best scenes of the entire fucking series. And what's even better about this part is it's all, like, lit well. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, it's like kind of brighter than usual. It's not like super dark.
I mean, it does look like an obvious set. This one snake part that we're about to talk about,
it
but
looks
it looks
good.
good.
It looks good. You're
Yeah.
also in a dream, so you kind of get a little bit of the surrealism there.
Yeah.
So she comes in, and the Freddy snake is like a fucking graboid, like burrowing under the floor, and the carpet's coming up, and then like going through the walls and like breaking all the walls down, and finally like bursts through the floor and grabs her in his mouth and like slams her on the ground and starts like eating her.
It's like Anaconda.
Oh man, it's
John
so
Voight
good.
getting sucked up. Baby bird.
I did a fucking short for that girl dinner thing with this. I cut that together. There you go.
That is some girl dinner.
Yeah, there you go.
But then she just somehow, and we're going to find out in a second, pulls Nancy into her dream.
Oh, it's so good.
She like yells for her.
She screams out for her, and Nancy like gets like a headache or like falls asleep standing up, but then falls into her chair. One of the coolest dream transitions in the series too.
They did do that a couple times later, but it looks good every time.
It looks really but it looks really good in this particular instance. She falls through her chair and into the dream, stabs Freddy in the fucking eye with a piece of glass.
Well, she falls through a mirror in the Thompson house.
Yeah,
and she grabs and then he like looks at her and he's like, you fucking asshole.
You,
yeah. And then the only time this ever works in the whole franchise, to my knowledge, Nancy's like, Christian, you need to wake up. And then she just like wakes up. And I'm like, didn't work any other time. But
why didn't we do that before when we were all... Well, to be fair, every other time we go in, they're trying to go after
No,
Freddy.
I'm just talking about the franchise as a whole. Being a little hyperbolic here.
And also they introduced the mirror thing in this, which is cool. It's like windows to the different realities and dream worlds that we don't really fuck with again. We get a little bit of that in 4, but it's like the end of the movie.
I'll save my thoughts on all that for the end if I remember, because that is one of my biggest problems with the franchise as a whole. Is they just forget the fucking roots. Again, Halloween, same shit.
Well, they didn't make it because they wanted to make a good sequel. They just made it because they wanted to make money.
You just said it.
Yeah. So Nancy talks to Kristen, and she's like, holy shit, that was crazy what happened last night. How did you do that? And Kristen tells her that ever since she was a little girl, she used to pull her dad into her dreams, and she kind of has this power to share dreams with people and kind of interact and I guess pretty vividly, I would say.
Yeah.
So like that's her power that she has, and that's the kind of the crux of how we get the Dream Warriors TM and like how it all comes together.
The
and how
power element.
The power element and kind of how we come together. It's almost like a Pennywise It thing where they all need, like, separate they're weak, but together they're strong, and they're kind of thing.
The team does better than the one person.
Right.
Yeah. Again, unless you're Nancy Thompson. Then you set up traps in your house, you get an axe, you get a fucking sledgehammer on a trap. But that's not the point.
No. We do get another group thing here where like everybody introduces himself to Nancy, and we get a little bit more of everybody's backstory that we were talking about. Because Jennifer wants to be an actress. Jennifer Rubin, Taryn is like a drug addict. Joey's a mute. Will tried to kill himself by jumping off a roof or something and broke his fucking legs, and now he's in a wheelchair. Kincaid is just an asshole, hothead guy.
Yeah, I think that is actually the scene. It wasn't the previous group, it's this one where Phil starts calling him out about not believing them. Yeah. And that's when the doctors start to threaten them, like, these group sessions, this is not the point of this. And then I forget how it kind of gets to this, but Kincaid starts flipping out. He's like, because what is it, my dick's killing me? Because that's what they're trying to say. They're trying to come up with every reason under the sun that it could be, instead of, I mean, to be fair, the craziest option that somebody is in your dream killing you.
Because they're all sharing the same dream of this guy, but nobody's talked about it yet except Nancy. Which he talks about a little bit later, but in one of the sessions. But yeah, she's the Elizabeth or whatever is like, oh yeah, it's sexual repression, and he's like, my dick's killing me or some shit like that.
That's what it is. I had it written down. I couldn't remember the context. But then we cut to this Dungeons and Dragons scene, or Wizard Master, excuse me.
Yeah, the Wizard Master. Don't get sued.
Right. Where Will and Joey and Taryn are playing,
which is kind of fun, and they're like, they're trying to like bond, and they're basically playing D&D.
I love how Taryn won't stay in character, and Will's like, "Come on, you gotta stay in character," and then
come on, say it.
What are you gonna do with your horse? She's like, "I'm gonna sell my horse, and I'm gonna go to bed, and I'm gonna buy a new one tomorrow. Good night, boys." He's like, "She can't do that. She can't fucking do that." And then Max comes in.
Yeah,
he's got this down to routine by now, obviously, but he tucks in. Will, which I kind of like, although probably should have asked him if he had to pee first.
Somebody better change that boy's dirty socks.
Oh, God, yeah.
What the fuck is with that?
They don't worry about it.
Yeah, they're like,
in the morning.
You don't use those things.
Oh, God. And then we get this kind of first, I mean, we're saying it a couple times already, but this is the first time where you really see them actually actively trying to go against Freddy, for lack of a better term.
Well, this is great, too, because after Max leaves, they don't go to sleep.
That's what I mean.
They take shifts of watching each other go to sleep.
And they don't say because of Freddy. They're just, you kind of have to pick up. Oh, okay, they're obviously.
Yeah, he's like, if I make so much as a peep, you better wake me up. And he's like, you're on first watch. So Joey's like reading a comic book or some shit.
In the corner, no lights on. I won't fall asleep. Oh, wait, he doesn't talk, so we can't say that.
So then we cut to like Neil and Nancy, and they're having dinner, and he kind of confronts her about the Hypnocil thing, and she's like, hey, those kids are having really bad dreams. What do you think about prescribing them Hypnocil? And he's like, are you out of your fucking mind? And she's like, that's an experimental drug that I'm going to prescribe to like suicidal teenagers. I don't think so.
Right, yeah.
And she's like, well, it'll stop them having dreams just until we figure it out,
And like, yeah, he calls her on it, and she's like, well, I've been using it for years, and it works for me, more or less. I mean, it's a little bit more involved than that. Yeah. But
basically.
I was reading too, and this doesn't really come out entirely in the finished film, but I don't know if this was in the script or maybe just on the editing room floor, that I guess like Neil and Nancy were supposed to be dating, or there was because you could kind of maybe see some sparks. Yeah, there's a scene later where they're at his apartment, or her apartment rather, and they got the fire roaring, but it never really goes there.
Yeah, but I thought you would appreciate that. And I appreciate
I do.
I appreciate the relationship where they can be kind of into each other, but it's not be the whole point of them getting together. And there was a kiss scene apparently, but they cut it out. Maybe that's
what I read, or an implied sex scene, like they're in bed and you don't see anything.
There was no sex scene. There was a kiss scene that they took out, which I think works better.
It was actually shot.
Yeah, just like what happened in the new Twisters movie. There was
heard about that.
Yeah, there was a kiss shot filmed, but they didn't put it in the movie, and I actually like it better without it.
Oh, without? Okay, yeah.
Because it's kind of like, if you see the movie,
I mean, they've only known each other for a few days. That has been one of my classic bitches on this show, so you're 100% right. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
To that point, though, when I think about if I had to date in my 30s, like right now,
sure,
I'd probably move a lot quicker than when I was a kid.
No, that's fair, too.
Only because it's like, let's get to the fucking point. Are we fucking, or, is this compatible in all these different aspects? Well,
especially now Nancy knows Freddy's probably back. She doesn't know how much longer she's going to live.
This is also true. So then we cut to Philip. Now, Philip shares a room with Kincaid, and he's the puppet guy that has all the marionettes. And man, we cut right to Doug Beswick's beautiful fucking stop motion, because here we get like the unfinished puppet, and the head turns into Freddy.
Right.
And it's this little Freddy puppet, and it like jumps down and like cuts its strings, and it's like walking around, and then it like grows into a full Freddy.
I wish we got a little more of that puppet.
It's cool. I mean, it's expensive, but it's awesome. I mean, we get more stop motion later. We'll talk about.
Yeah, I do like though where he goes with this. Although Philip really just less of a chance than anybody else in this franchise, pretty much.
This is one of the best kills of the whole franchise.
Him and Johnny Depp, basically, you're just dead. You have no chance.
Oh man, but he like slices Phil's legs and arms open and like pulls his tendons out.
He has nerve tendons. Oh my god.
And is like walking him around as a marionette, and he's like with his arms and his feet, and you see it all close up, man. It still skis me out.
Yeah, but he's like the sleepwalker, so Kincaid sees him and he's just like, you asshole.
He's like, wake up. He's like, fuck you, you dumbass. Good night. Goes back to sleep. Because he's always walking around. This is one of those dodgy parts you talked about in the beginning where he walks past the nurse at the office, and like the green screen isn't great because you see him like walk through the door like spiritually or whatever.
Well, which doesn't even really make any sense, but whatever.
Well, when you watch somebody sleep, they're influenced by the dream.
No, I understand that, which is way more prevalent in this one than the first one, but there is a lot of stuff in that first one with like the tongue coming out of the phone and the bathtub scene,
it's
obviously.
Expanded in this, but I think not too far-fetched where you're like, that doesn't make any sense.
I just mean specifically him ghosting through a door might be a step too far, but whatever.
I think it's fine. I think it works.
Yeah. To get us to this next scene, I'm with it.
Walks his ass up to like this tower.
Bell tower,
this bell tower of the mental facility. And Joey sees it out of the corner of his eye, and he's like looking up and he's like banging on the fucking window. Now he doesn't talk, so he's banging on the fucking window. He wakes up. Will pulls his ass out of bed.
Right, yeah.
And Will's screaming for him, and he starts waking everybody up.
Hits the tray against the wall.
And all this shit. They wake up.
Philip's just like...
They all fucking Will smashes the window and they all come in. All the kids come in and they're like screaming at him to wake up. And this fucking kid's just up at this tower. And Freddy is like looming over him in the sky, which is really cool. And
I just think it could have looked a little better. But
I think it looks.
Cool.
I think
so.
I think it looks great.
Fair enough.
It's very cool. That's one of my favorite shots.
Oh, okay.
And he cuts the string where he cuts his tendons.
Well, I love that. Yeah.
And then he falls. He dies. He falls off the tower. It's great.
Of course, Sims and Gordon are like, he just killed himself. It's really unfortunate.
Look, it sucks. He couldn't hack it.
Well, that's Kincaid.
Yeah. Kid's like, he beat him, motherfucker. He couldn't do it and he died.
He couldn't hack it. He failed. Period. That's it. He's like going off. Like he's upset, but he also just trying to like, that's it. It's done. Let's move on. Like, you gotta take care of this shit.
Well, they have another group session.
He got nailed. That's what he says.
Yeah, he got nailed. That's his fault.
Yeah.
They're having another group session, and finally Nancy's like, it's Freddy. He wears a brown hat, right, and a sweater, and they're like, holy shit, how do we stop him? And Elizabeth's like, whoa, fuck this shit. She's like, look, he killed himself, it was a bad thing, you're all gonna be, have your doors locked at night, and we're gonna sedate you. And Kincaid fucking goes berserk.
Oh yeah, he starts punching people
like,
pretty much.
Put me to sleep, motherfucker! And he's like fighting everybody. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And like even Gordon at first, you're kind of like, oh, he's just okay with this because of the line earlier when he was anti-Hypnocil.
Yeah. But
then he kind of changes his tune, and he kind of
after this big outburst, he's like, I'm prescribing Hypnocil, and Elizabeth's like, what? She's like, I'm not doing that to these kids, and he's like, if you don't approve it, then I'm going straight to fucking whatever. And she's like, fine, but it's your fault if anything happens.
Which that was a bluff on his end. He knows Carver ain't approving that shit.
No, hell no. She took the bait though.
She did.
Yeah.
She does say, like you just said though, if it fucks up, I'm blaming you.
Yeah. And then again, one of the most iconic scenes in the movie besides the Freddy snake. Jennifer's watching television in the TV room.
The TV room acts is like, I didn't see you in here.
He's like, you got to go to bed. They're gonna fucking fry my ass. And she's like, please. And he's like, okay, fine. So she's in there. She's like fishing for like cigarettes because she has this thing where she like burns herself with cigarettes. I guess to stay awake. That's the implication.
Smoke a little drag on this old ciggy just to stay up.
This fucking cool 100 that she's pulling on.
Well, unfortunately, she starts watching the Dick Cavett show and instantly falls asleep, unbeknownst to her. Interviewing Zsa Zsa Gabor, by the way.
I've never seen the Dick Cavett show, but I always think of Beetlejuice because Dick Cavett.
Oh, is he in that too?
He's Lydia.
Oh, he's Delia's
art representative.
Right, at the dinner scene.
Delia, you've always been a flake. You'll always be a flake. Yeah.
I've seen his clips on YouTube. I've watched some of his interviews. He's actually a pretty good interview. I mean, going back decades now at this point, but from what I've seen, pretty good, but whatever. Interview shows.
Zsa Zsa Gabor is on the Dick Cavett show. She had no idea.
She didn't know what she was getting into.
She thought She thought legitimately she was gonna be on the Dick Cavett show doing an interview, and she's really responding to his questions.
Because I read that when they had gotten Dick Cavett, they asked him specifically, like, who would you want, like, across from you in this scene?
Yeah.
And he was like, Jar Jar Gabor!
Yeah.
And somehow they made it happen.
Well, she just wanted to be in a movie again, and she was like, sure. She had no idea who the fuck Freddy Krueger was, and they pulled him out, and she, like, legitimately, like, freaked out when she saw him. I thought that was so funny. Because they're, like, interviewing back and forth, and he's like, can I ask you a question? And she's like, well, of course. She's like, I don't give a fuck what you think.
With the claw comes at her, slashes her.
Yeah, real Sammy Kerr kind of deal.
I was just going to say that Ozzy getting attacked to the screen. Yeah.
Love, whatever happened to love? I love you.
Imagine Ozzy being serious saying that. That's like, holy shit, that's scary.
Feel me, feel me. So yeah, the screen goes all fuzzy and shit. And again, it could just go fuzzy, but there's this really scary, it's like this digital sound of the kids singing the rhyme, which I totally forgot about for some reason. And I'm like, this is fucking scary, because she stands up and she goes over and like is like, what the fuck's wrong with it? She's like turning the dial and shit.
Yeah. And then Freddy kind of mimicking one of the more iconic shots from one, but in a different way, where his head, is pushing to that wall in the first one. This time it's pushing through the TV as the arms push out the side and just grab this woman by her arms.
They're so cool. They're like all made of wires and shit. And yeah, his head gets like up and like sucked down. It's really cool effect, man.
It looks cool.
One of Freddy's all-time lines is the "Welcome to prime time, bitch."
Robert Englund ad-libbed that.
Was an ad-lib, and there you go. That's how the magic happens, dude.
I forget what the other line is he says right before that, but that was
Your big break in TV was actually the written line.
Yup. And they were like, yeah, you got something else, go for it. And they both made it in because I think Chuck Russell liked it a lot.
So yeah. And then she gets her fucking head smashed into the television. Now, how do you explain this one?
I was about to say that.
How the fuck do you explain this death?
Somebody else had to be at least involved, right? Like, they should be. There's no security cameras. This is the 80s.
There's a murderer on the loose.
Yeah.
Because this kid, he committed suicide. He jumped from the building. This chick is hanging out of a television head first in this wall.
And then there's like a huge black mark on the wall from like just the sparks and everything.
This is an explosion.
I don't know, but all they know is now everyone's getting locked in their goddamn rooms. How did this even happen? I gotta tell this girl's mother about her death.
Then we get the first of like these weird scenes with this nun.
Right.
Which isn't so bad. Like, I don't mind it. This is something that was added by Darabont and Russell to explain. They like changed Freddy's backstory because this is not in the original script at all.
I like it, but I don't like it. We'll talk about it maybe when we do the reveal later in the review. Yeah. But Sister Mary Helena.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, no, that's where I kind of land on it.
I think it's less a problem than I have with it in 5.
Yes.
Because it's more like this clandestine thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Where she appears to him, and it's clear from the get-go that she's a spirit or she's an apparition that only he sees.
Yeah, only Gordon sees. Because even I think it's this scene, or there's a couple funeral scenes here, but Nancy comes up to him at one point when he's talking to the nun, and then she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he turns and she's gone.
At the graveyard, yeah. Because he sees her one time, but then he sees her again at the graveyard for the funeral for Jennifer.
Yeah.
And he's talking to her, and she's like, there's only one thing that could save the children. And he's like, what? And she's like, you gotta lay him to rest or whatever.
The abomination.
The abomination, his body and spirit need to be laid to rest. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right, yeah. She should have said that to Nancy, but again, ghost. Fine.
You think Nancy went through the trauma of it? So, yeah.
Well, they're trying to get Gordon more involved. He's starting to become a believer. He's still kind of on the fence, but he's trying to trust Nancy.
Which I guess he's kind of the straight man in this, where he's trying to piece it together, and he's kind of the audience, sort of.
He's a character that, on first glance, you might be like, all right, just your generic doctor, but he's kind of an interesting character.
And then we get this scene again, a more intimate scene between Neil and Nancy.
There's the fireplace one.
This is the fireplace one, and he's like, "Wow, what's this?" She's like, "That's a Malaysian dream doll. I got it from Chase Meridian."
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah. And
her psychiatrist, of course.
Exactly. 100%. What do you see? I see a burnt guy with knife fingers.
A burnt pussy face. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Not a bat. All right.
It's a Rorschach test. You see whatever you think you see. Got a thing for bats, doctor?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Neil's doubting himself and thinking that he can't help the kids anymore, and he's not sure what to do. It's kind of beyond his rational thought, because all of these things don't add up. They don't make sense. bitch hanging from a fucking television
Yeah.
in midair with her head smashed through it. You know, it's not really something you can explain. So Nancy's like, okay, I'm going to tell you all about this.
I think you're ready.
And I need you to keep an open mind. And he's like, okay. And then we smash cut to the another group session. He's like, okay, kids, this is what we're going to do. Freddy Krueger's real. And we're going to do a group hypnosis session where we're all going to fall asleep and try to share a dream together.
Well, I think this might be actually when she tells them about Freddy Krueger, about the hat and everything.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Because it's like the Nancy lore dump.
Yeah, because that's actually pretty good writing. I
It
like
is.
how they do that, where she tells Neil off camera and then comes back and just tells everyone.
Yeah.
And he starts to question again. She's like, open mind, Neil, open mind. He's like, nah, yeah, you're right.
Well, all the kids are like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
He's
And she's
real?
Like, yeah, he's a child murderer, and he wears a fucking old brown hat and a Christmas sweater and knife fingers,
Right,
and he's
yeah.
burnt.
Yeah, you're right. And then they do this group hypnosis, and they have like a metronome set up and everything. And Nancy's like, all right, Kristen can pull people into dreams. I know it sounds nuts, but...
We're stronger together than if we're separate, so we got to learn how to do this.
Right, and I'm saying that as they just talked about Freddy Krueger in their dreams. But so they all, of course, agree. Even Neil, again, trying to keep an open mind, is like, all right, let's try it.
I love
Don't
this.
tell Sims.
I love this scene so much because they're like, oh, it didn't work. And Joey just like gets up, sees the nurse, and the nurse is like, come here, Joey. And so he leaves the room to go fuck, ?
Yeah,
And
but
you're
then-
like, huh, that's a little weird.
It is weird, but then like Neil's playing with like a Newton's cradle, like one of those little ball
Yeah,
toys.
yeah.
And I love the effect here where like the balls hit and they just bounce off into space. And it's like,
Looks like E.T.'s making shit
Oh,
levitate.
pff, yeah, Reese's Pieces and shit.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, it worked. Oh, shit. Like, at first I kind of forgot, even though I've seen this movie like 30 times. I'm like, oh, yeah, Neil's in the dream too. Right. Okay. Yeah,
But it's a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
You know, and to bring everybody in and people are like, holy shit, oh, we're here. We're not in the room. We're in the dream version of the room.
There's a few really good fake outs like that in this
Yeah.
film. And you typically in other movies, you'd be like, man, this is getting like repetitive. They did another fake out. But I think like there's like 3 or 4, I think all pretty much work.
It's natural.
Yeah.
And by the time you realize it, you're like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean?
Well, especially the big one towards the end.
Yeah.
But this one, it's really well done.
They do it in other sequels, not so great.
That's what I mean by that. You could beat a dead horse,
Yeah.
obviously.
They're like, oh, this is a dream. And Will gets up. He's like, I have strong legs, and I'm not in a wheelchair anymore. And I'm the wizard master. And he grabs the marble and turns into a fucking butterfly. Kincaid bends a fucking chair because he's like super strong.
Kristen does like 5 somersaults
Yeah.
in the air.
And Taryn, she's beautiful
And bad.
bad.
With the fucking switchblades.
Yeah.
She's got the huge mohawk.
I love it.
Hey, that's a power, I guess.
It is a power.
Probably could have had something a little better for what happens to her later, but hey.
You'd think they all suit up,
Like
in
the
their
X-Men or
dreams.
something?
Yeah. Well, like we get that with with Will a little bit later, but like
Yeah,
Taryn
yeah.
has a costume, not a think it's a fucking costume,
Right,
It's a
yeah,
way
yeah.
of life, so I guess not. So the nurse takes Joey into the room. She's like, I only come around because I want to see you, and I know this is inappropriate, but can you unzip me? And he like fucking unzips her, and
God.
this fucking nurse is tits out. Making out with him on the bed.
Also,
Pretty good dream.
Yeah, it's a pretty good dream so far. Also, earlier, there's totally a scene where he's like looking at her, like, salivating a little.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned that earlier.
Oh, okay. This
Yeah.
other gross orderly, who, you assume he's gross. He's way grosser than you realize. Comes up and is like, yeah, come on, baby, come out to lunch with me.
Oh, yeah. And he also, we forgot to mention it before, but before Jennifer gets fucking thrown in the TV, he like tries to get Taryn to do drugs again. He's
Oh,
like,
God,
I got
yeah.
the key to the dispensary. Want to get high? Look at those. What are these? Beauty marks?
Yeah, like that's a character I would have liked to see get killed, but can't win them all.
No.
But yeah, that's pretty
He'll
fucked
get
up.
killed-
Trying to get her to relapse. Oh my God.
He'll get killed in Halloween 2.
Oh, is he in that?
No, I don't know.
Oh, you mean in the hot tub, obviously, yeah. Michael was really experimenting in that film.
Yeah. Or the fucking guy in Friday 4 in the beginning.
Oh God, yeah.
So she's like making out with Joey and like has this big ass fucking like ghoulies tongue that goes into her mouth,
Oh,
his
God.
mouth, and like he's choking him. And then she ends up like spitting tongues at his arms and legs and like locks him into this bed. And the fucking mattress falls out to like hell.
Yeah, this hell portal. She
Yeah.
tongue ties him, by the way.
Yeah.
Freddy even makes a joke about it later.
Freddy loves doing that, turning into hot women and like seducing little boys.
He's like fucking Lubden.
Yeah.
From Leprechaun, which we've-
Leprechaun loves to do it. Pennywise loves to do it. Freddy loves to do it.
Well, the 3 of them are actually kind of similar when you think about
Yeah.
it on some level.
Well,
Like, we've talked about it before. In our
Leprechaun is literally little Freddy.
Yeah, check out our Leprechaun 3 episode where we kind of actually talk about that a little.
Yeah, but yeah, so Joey's like trapped, basically.
Oh, yeah. He's like the only one Freddy's like, I'll use him as bait. Usually I just kill them instantly, but this is a pretty good plan.
Because he only needs to split off one of them, right, to make them less powerful. So he ends up trying to, like, crush them in the room, and it, like, turns into the inside of a boiler. It's
3PO! 3PO! God damn it!
Master Luke! Oh!
That's what I thought of instantly.
I've killed them! Yeah. It's so awesome, too, because the fucking room... It doesn't just go on fire. Like, things start melting. Neil gets a fucking Harry Lime special on the door handle.
He has like a big K on his hand.
He has a big F on his hand.
One or the other, yeah. Freddy, I was like a Krueger because the McAllister.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they get out of the dream and they're like, Sims walks in. That's how they get out of the dream.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, what the hell's going on here?
Everybody's asleep. Joey's on the floor.
She doesn't have to snap her fingers or yell. They just wake up instantly. And she's like, this boy won't wake up. Joey won't wake up. Code Blue.
He's in a fucking coma.
Well, this is like some shit out of like Insidious or something. Like his soul is somewhere else, literally.
Yeah. He's in the Freddy Further. Yeah.
In his fucking stomach with the other pizza balls.
My children.
Pizza balls. Meatballs with Linnea in the pizza. It's a different movie.
What's his name? Mark, you little meatball.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that 4? That's 4.
That might be
Soul food. Man, he's really mugging
the beginning of the end. Oh,
shit,
my
man.
God.
Just to note that real quick.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to put it in my final thought, too, but, like, Freddy does not have the same energy in 3 that he does in 4. Not even close.
He doesn't even necessarily have the same energy as 1. But
I
I do like what they do with him. 1, he is way more intimidating.
It's more dark humor, but he's still scary in this one.
4 and 5 and 6, obviously.
We'll get to it.
He's
He's a joke at that point.
Yeah, with the Nintendo controller or the Power Glove and all
Because
that.
they're like, oh, it worked for this movie. Let's just go full ham on it for the next fucking 4 sequels.
You know how that
Or
goes
3
sometimes
sequels,
with these franchises, though.
So Neil and Nancy get fired for doing this thing and putting this kid in a coma.
Yeah, we finally see Carver.
Carver comes in. He's like, "What the fuck have you done? You prescribed them Hypnocil? Are you crazy?"
And Sims doesn't back him up at all. She's like cold-hearted, like, "Well, I told you not to do it. Sorry, I'm sedating everybody.
Bye.
So long."
Yeah.
And then Nancy's like, "No one can protect these kids now. I need to go talk to my dad. Come on, Neil."
They leave, and Neil leaves, and he's all
his box of shit.
Yeah, he's got his box of shit. He's like fucking Elliot Loudermilk, fucking Code 5, getting kicked out, and Bill Murray's watching him from the telescope. And
right next to Bill Murray, though, is fucking Sister Mary Helena. Believe it or not,
also true.
And he sees that, of course, and then
he breaks a door down. Neil breaks the door down, runs up the fucking the clock tower or whatever the fuck it is.
I guess Philip malformed through that, ghosted through it.
Yeah. So he meets Sister Mary up there, and she's like, "Yeah, this used to be the old wing where we put the worst criminals, and it was horrible over here. And this woman that was an orderly here, well, she was captured by all these crazy criminals, and they hid her for days and raped the shit out of her.
100 inmates, by the way.
100 maniacs."
Right.
Yeah.
And her name was Amanda Krueger.
And he's like, "Oh my God, Freddy's mom."
And this might be the one thing I don't like about this movie, and they continually bring it back in the sequels, unfortunately, is just like, Freddy could just be some weirdo, maybe pedophile, child murderer. I don't need any sympathy for this guy he's a demon, he's a piece of shit because 100 nutcases raped his mother.
He's supposed to be evil incarnate, basically.
I agree.
He's the bastard son of 100 maniacs, but we don't see any of that. It's just inferred.
You gotta see it in a couple sequels.
Well, right, and like to the full extent, you're I don't really need to see this, but okay.
It's not even comparable, so don't overthink what I'm about to say.
No.
But it's like the Rob Zombie Halloween, where it's like, again, very extreme comparison.
Hold that thought. Don't even fucking say it.
Finish what I'm saying. They have to over-explain how Michael became Michael.
Oh, sure. But
it's way more egregious in that film, and that is kind of what Rob was going for, to be fair, even if I don't like it.
It's more cryptic in this movie, though.
I agree with that.
It's more cryptic, like she tells it in a riddle almost.
She does.
And she's like, and then he goes, "Oh my God, Freddy." And she's like, "You need to bury his bones, put him to rest."
It clarifies what she said.
And then he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "See you later."
Yeah.
And just bounces out of the movie.
I like the ghost nun. I could do without the added layer to Freddy, but it doesn't hurt it really that much. Just wanted to comment on it.
Well, again, in the original script, Freddy was just born fucked up, and like this, it adds more weight to it, or
the serial killer thing. I feel like they felt like they had to put that in there. Was that a West thing? Or I guess it was a Darabont thing.
No,
probably.
it's a Darabont thing.
It works though.
Yeah,
to be fair, as I'm nitpicking.
Well, they also put the religion into it, which I don't think it needed, and it's kind of doesn't really make any sense. But okay,
in the same breath, with the nun and everything, it works for what they're going for. Same. I could do without it, but it's fine.
I think what happens at the end, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, no, that kind of does make it work.
So Joey's in this fucking coma, and Nancy's like, "Let him go, you bastard!" And this is cool because I always love this. Freddy from the other side carves "Come and get him, bitch" on his chest. It's always a good one.
Right, and that's when they then leave to go talk to Dad at the at the fucking.
Well, yeah, because they meet up, and he's like, "Oh, we got to find where Freddy was buried. Like, where's his body?" And he's like, "She's like, I don't know, but I know somebody who does."
Right, not Mom, who's dead. Again, we've already established that.
Well, yeah.
But Dad, I guess
they hold a seance, and then they talk to Mom. No, that's
right.
not what happens.
Oh my God, what a detour that would have been. But no, yeah, they go to talk to Dad because I guess Mom left a note and said, "Hey, get rid of these fucking bones after I die. They're in the furnace with the glove."
Well, they didn't burn him in the furnace. They put the glove in the furnace, but when they
they burned him at the warehouse or whatever.
They burned him in the
boiler room.
His boiler room.
Yeah.
And then John Saxon wrapped him in a fucking blanket and put him in the trunk of a Cadillac in a junkyard.
Well, right, that's what he explains.
Yeah.
But I'm saying from the first movie specifically when Mom shows it in the furnace. Like, we took his remains and we kept it here.
Well, they just took the glove.
Well, I guess that's true. It's wrapped in
and it's like wrapped in the thing, and they put it in the. Why they do that? I don't know.
Plot purposes.
Anyway, I still think it's kind of cool, and they kind of like hit it or whatever.
Yeah.
Why you wouldn't just bury that with the fucking guy? I don't know.
It's also in that first film. They're like constantly gaslighting Nancy when they know 100% what's happening. I know. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, that's a plot point we didn't talk about. But like,
sure.
Freddy's going after these kids because of they're the last of the Elm Street kids.
Right. When she gives that lore dump, that's because Nancy had come to that conclusion that your parents, and then she tells them, your parents cornered this again.
Had all participated.
Yeah, in killing this guy who probably deserved to be killed because he got off in his trial due to a technicality that they again explained in the first one.
Yeah.
Paperwork got signed wrong or something.
But that's good enough for me. Like that's all I need.
I mean.
Like he's getting his revenge on these people.
Yes.
And their kids by killing their kids.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And they of course buy it instantly because it all lines up.
Yeah. So they go down to the bar. John Saxon's 3 sheets to the fucking wind, and
he's a security guard now, by the way.
Yeah,
no longer chief of
police.
What
a fall from grace, man. He thought he wrapped up that Black Christmas case, but
once the nightmare case came and his fucking wife
and
died,
wife got pulled through the fucking door, that was it. Or melted into a bed. We're not really sure.
We'd have to read John Saxon's script. Maybe there's a prologue in there where he comes back to the events after one at the end there.
I'm good.
I mean, I am too.
Totally good.
Totally just hypothetical thinking there. But yeah, he's drunk as a fucking skunk, like basically head on the table, like 2, 3, 4, 5, fucking 6 sheets to the wind.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, Dad, remember me, your daughter?" Oh my God, Nancy.
Where's Freddy buried? I don't know. Get out of here.
Well, she says Krueger. Where's Krueger?
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Then Neil gets up some balls and like picks him up out of his seat, and he's like, "Show me where the fucking Freddy Krueger's buried. Your daughter's gonna die, and if you don't care, I do.
We're gonna go on a scavenger.
We're going on it. That was pretty good.
Yeah, because he gets like the call on the beeper from the hospital, and they call, and Taryn's like, "Yeah, Sims is out of control. She sedated Kristen and put her in the quiet room. We're all gonna die.
Yeah, Freddy's gonna kill us all and her."
Nancy puts a pedal on the metal. She's like Gordon in Dark Knight. Mount the curb. Racing to this hospital while, like you just said, Dad and Neil are going off on this scavenger hunt to try to stop Freddy or bury him, I guess.
Well, they got to go get his bones and put them in sacred ground, and what that means, I guess, is just giving Freddy a funeral because they stop at a church and he like fills up a fucking pint of booze with holy water
and steals John Saxon's bottle from him. Give me that. Oh.
He goes to take the crucifix and the post. Jesus, the priest stops him and he's like, "What are you doing with that, son?" And he's like, "Here's my driver's license. Keep it as collateral. I'll be right back."
Thank God he didn't get pulled over. Because that would have been the end of it. They all would have died in the dream.
Well, John's driving. I'm surprised he didn't crash.
Well, right, he's drunk. Yeah, that's true.
So they're on their fucking side quest to go bury Freddy. And Nancy goes back to the hospital and is able to get to the kids and, again, dream together and put themselves into the dream so they meet up with Kristen again.
I do want to comment on this because it is the through line in this character I think is kind of, I like it, where Max actually stops her at the door. And it's like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, a bunch of my kids died since you got here. I don't fucking trust you, lady.
Can't let you in there.
And I was like, you know what? I don't agree with you, Larry, but you're totally justified in that logic. I probably would have done the same thing in your shoes, actually. And then she's like, well, can I talk to the rest of them? And then that's how she kind of weasels her way in to start that group. She's like, this is the last group. They're like, okay. I love, too, how Nancy, before they do go into the dream, like, she sets the metronome up again. She's like, yeah, just so you know, you could die in the dream. Like, let's just clarify that if you're not sure. Also, I really wanted more time to practice so we could really, like, learn to work as a team, but Kristen and Joey are in there. We're fucked. We just have to do it. Which I like that a lot because it is like, yeah, if they had like another week or two, they probably could have actually maybe done some damage to Freddy in theory, but they only had a day or two
if
to
they
try
practiced,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Kincaid's like, let's go kick that motherfucker's ass all over Dreamland.
All over Dreamland.
Oh,
yeah.
it's so good.
He's ready.
Yeah.
They fall asleep.
So yeah, and Freddy starts ripping up they find Kristen and Freddy starts like ripping up the padded
the
room that she's
quiet
in,
room,
which is
yeah.
really cool. And like all these feathers fly all over the place, and each one is transported to a different part of the dream world.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And he ends up splitting them up anyway just to fucking up the body count in this movie.
But the editing here and the storytelling is incredible because we don't know that initially.
No.
They all get shoved through these walls and mirrors and shit and disappear, and we cut to Kristen waking up from the opening scene.
And she's still listening to Dawkins, and she's making that fucking Freddy house.
This is the one I was talking about earlier. This is the best fucking fake out of
It's
the film
so good.
easily. Because, like, you're sitting there like, huh. All right, are they trying to tell me this was all fucking dream? It can't possibly be the case. Is she dreaming this? And then Mom comes in. It's almost verbatim repeat.
On delay.
Yeah. Oh, you got a man downstairs this time. Where's the bourbon?
Yeah. Where you keep the bourbon? I'll be down in a second.
Gets pulled through the door, screams, and
I
then
said, where's the fucking bourbon? And he like cuts her head off.
cuts her head off, and he's holding the head, Freddy.
She's like berating Kristen.
Yeah. All right, told you I have a man over. And
You're always fucking it up for me. I'm trying to get laid.
great scene. And then, of course, now obviously we know we're in the dream still.
She jumps through her window, but then like jumps into the Krueger house.
Right, yeah. Also, Freddy Krueger has a tuxedo on in the scene.
It's pretty great. And then she's just walking around the house, and then we kind of transition to Taryn, and like there's feathers falling again, and she like walks out into this alley, which I guess is where she used to shoot up or whatever by this bar, Tony's bar or whatever.
Yeah, and you see on the wall behind her when she first walks in, T and F with the heart around it.
It says Taryn loves Freddy.
Oh, does it?
Or
Okay,
Freddy
okay.
loves Taryn or some shit.
And she's walking. She knows Freddy's there.
No, it's great because there's this fake out with this bum that like
bum.
that like walks past her, and she turns around and you think he's gonna turn into Freddy, but then she like turns and like walks right into Freddy. It's good.
Right. That is good.
Then they have like a fight off, and she has like the switchblades, and they fight, which is pretty good.
But then Freddy just randomly gets the upper hand when he's like, hey, cut the camera, cut to the next scene. Hey, look at my hands, needles.
Wanna get high?
Yeah. Love this kill, even though I just kind of made fun of it.
Yeah.
Where he just, also, the track marks
The track
on her
marks
arm.
are like little mouths going like sucking, trying to get those fucking drugs, man.
And then he just sticks her in the arms,
yeah.
and the rest is kind of left up to your imagination. But originally, they did film this, but I guess it looked like shit, they said. Her head was supposed to explode.
And they said it looked bad, but I'm like, how bad could it have possibly looked?
Did they ever put that out? Like,
I don't
to
know. If there's
see?
a deleted scene, we're watching it right now.
If it exists, yeah. I'm okay with what they did. If it looked bad, I trust them. I complained so much about that one in Curse of Michael Myers. I'm not going to give them flack for this.
Well, that was like the whole brain scan thing with that monster at the end that they didn't even end up using.
Oh, God.
It looked cool, but didn't make sense for the story, but it looked cool.
Right, yeah.
So she's dead. We get Will. Now he's walking down this hallway.
This Elden Ring fucking wheelchair? This medieval wheelchair?
This is fucking Granny Van Damme's sexual torture wheelchair,
Christ.
man.
Yeah, you're probably right. She's off camera.
Oh, Freddy, strap me in, baby.
I'll let you use it to kill this young man. Fuck it. This thing fucking goes down the hallway at full speed.
You better bring it back on time, Freddy. We got a date later.
She definitely has a dildo built into that thing.
Oh, dude, yeah. She's got the George Clooney
I was
device.
gonna say burn after reading.
Yeah. Foom, foom, foom. As you're getting, like, stabbed, you get the fucking, the Iron Maiden spikes in the hand.
It's a turn on.
Yeah, for sure.
Pain and pleasure.
Leprechaun's riding that fucking wheelchair.
He doesn't get hurt, though.
No, he's loving it, too.
I'm just saying, pain and pleasure. I think GVD somehow, we never really talked about it. She might be
such sights to show
She might be related to them in some capacity.
Cenobites?
She created the fucking lament configuration.
She is having fucking orgies with them.
Her and Uncle Frank?
Yeah.
She's picking up pieces off that fucking wall and just sticking them in their vagina.
Yeah. You think...
Hey, Uncle Frank, yeah.
It's
Come to daddy.
that's Uncle Frank's real concubine. It's not what's his face's wife.
Oh, right, yeah. Only, again, said this a few times. Seen the movie 100 times.
Yeah.
My favorite fucking horror. I can't remember her damn name. The wife.
There's also somebody in the book that I can't remember, which that was totally her. It's like a female Cenobite that comes and like fucks Uncle Frank on a bunch of skulls or something.
Hellraiser's another one that's ripe for the MD picking at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Soon.
So he sends this fucking wheelchair down the thing. He's like, well, have a seat, get back in the saddle.
But then Will is like, oh, it's my dream.
And he's like, I can walk, and I'm the wizard master. And he comes up, he's got the fucking cloak on. He looks like Mystima. He borrowed that shit from him.
He does a little bit, yeah. And he's like kind of floating. They kind of make it look like he is at least.
Like, in the name of the Elven King, I banish you, evil spirit, or whatever. And he fucking shoots Freddy with the green shit.
But he's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Just stand like 30 feet away and just keep firing.
He runs up to him and does it. And he's like,
Freddy's like, boop. Good night.
Freddy grabs this little kid by the throat and lifts him up. He's like, I don't believe in fairy tales, kid. And it's pretty brutal because it's just like, it's nothing fancy. It's just Freddy going, fuck you. And he stabs him right in the chest. It's great.
He likes that move in this movie. To hold someone up with one hand.
It's good because he does dream shit, but like, that's pretty good though. Just the old stabberoo.
No, I mean, it works. It's an old standby.
Yeah. Kristen and Nancy are there, and they're standing by this wall, and something's breaking through, and you're like, oh my god, it's giant Freddy Snake again. Nope, it's Kincaid.
Again, smartest character. Him and Nancy, two smartest characters in this fucking movie.
I thought I heard voices, and he fucking breaks down the wall.
Well, because everybody else is just going about their business as you would expect on some level, but Kincaid's like, fuck this noise. I hear yelling. I'm just breaking a wall down. I'm not going through this shit, this nightmare.
This is my favorite part because Kincaid breaks down the wall, and he's like, Freddy, you butt-faced pussy!
Yeah, here it is.
Pussy!
Krueger pussy, there it is.
Krueger pussy, man.
Burnt face pussy. We already said it a bunch of times. I mean, look at this fucking guy. I could see it.
Pizza face.
Pizza face, yeah.
Not Predator. Predator's pussy face.
Literally pussy face.
Burnt face pussy.
Burnt
That's
face
different.
pussy, yeah. Well, right. Danny Glover, right, from 2.
Well, Danny Glover's pussy face. It's not the same thing.
And then there's Jabba the Hutt. Or Pizza the Hutt. Excuse me. He's delicious. You think Freddy's delicious?
Probably not.
He probably tastes like fucking... I don't even want to know. Holy shit. That's like some beef jerky you left in the oven for too long.
You know that one burnt potato chip at the bottom of the bag? Probably like that. Or that fucking bacon that you leave on too long? That's what it tastes like.
And just pour a shit ton of other gross stuff on top. Yeah. Just grease on top of the bacon and just eat it. Oof. Yikes.
So this floating door appears, and they go through it to go save Joey and down into fucking Freddy's furnace, ?
The metal door, yeah.
And
like the stairwell, the spiral staircase looks like literally, again, another portal into hell.
Yeah. So we cut back to the junkyard, and John Saxon's there, and he's like, the fuck you doing? He's like, and he like tries to leave, and he's like, hey, where do you think you're going? I got the keys. He's like, I said I'd find you, Freddy. I didn't say I'd stay and watch whatever the fuck you're gonna do with it.
Yeah, go through 100,000 cars and try to find his fucking body. Okay.
So they get the Freddy bones out.
The skeleton,
The skeleton. He's in the Cadillac of the trunk of this Cadillac, and we briefly cut back to like their where they fight Freddy because they go down the stairs and Freddy's there and they see Joey fucking tied up over the Hell's Pit.
Let him go.
Let him go.
Don't mind if I do.
Your wish is my command.
Joker obviously stole this one. Dark Knight.
Side note: I really hate they do this in the first one too. Sometimes Freddy has the deep voice effect, and then sometimes he doesn't. And that kind of fucks with me.
You think that's like a Robert Englund thing or just a post-production thing?
No, it's a post-audio thing. But
yeah, I did notice that a few times, though. You're right.
Nancy saves Joey. They pull him up. Kristen, like, karate fucking missile drop kicks fucking Freddy across the screen.
Yeah. Kincaid picks up like a fucking pipe and is like hitting him with it.
The shit out of him with it. But then he ends up grabbing Kincaid by the throat, and then Nancy like stabs him with like a piece of rebar.
That's one of the best scenes. He's holding Kincaid the entire time with one hand, and takes the other hand and pulls the rebar out and like licks it and everything.
And Nancy's like, "What the fuck?" He's like super strong, and he's like, "That's right, Nancy. It's all the souls from the children." And he like pulls his shirt down, and there's all little faces on him. It's pretty great. And like that is a great plot development. Well, why is Freddy so strong? Oh, because he's absorbing the power of the souls. He's like fucking Shang Tsung.
Literally. I mean, I think if we did not say it earlier, that is part of the reason why they wanted to team up is because he's become too powerful for one person.
To take out.
Yeah. And he's just, again, covered in those fucking meatballs.
but dude, Neil like puts one hand on the bones and Freddy goes, huh? And he's like, I'll be right back, and fucking transports to the real world. And I guess because he's like Uncle Frank, right? Yeah. So that's how Uncle Frank escapes the Hellraiser thing is because well, there's some of his cum on the boards up in the attic, and that's like his way to get through, right? It's blood in the movie, same difference.
Yeah.
And so I guess like Freddy is tangentially connected to his bones still. So if his bones are free and out, he can reanimate them and kind of be alive through them. It's a cool concept, and I like it. Because he goes to fucking fight Neil.
I don't
and
really
John
like it that much. I just think the scene's really good.
The scene's fucking cool. It's like a scene out of Jason and the Argonauts. This is some
it
fucking
is.
Ray Harryhausen shit because Freddy comes back with a fucking like
Yeah,
gloved
like,
hand.
Yeah, skeletal hand.
Skeletal
almost.
fucking gloved hand, and literally goes fisticuffs with Neil and John Saxon.
Well, that's why I do actually. I said I don't like it, but because of what happens, I'm like, it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
John Saxon's trying to get the fuck out of there for the last half hour.
He's like, I killed you once, I'll do it again, you fuck. And he like goes to kill the bones, and
Or something.
Freddy stabs him in the stomach, but that's not good enough. Freddy picks him up and throws him across the junkyard.
By
and
the balls.
He gets impaled on a piece of like jutting out like metal and goes
Yeah.
through his chest.
And he's fucking dead as shit.
Oh, he's dead as shit.
And then Freddy Skeleton throws fucking Neil in the hole and is like,
Hits him with a shovel.
Hits him with the shovel.
And he's like burying him alive.
And then like doesn't really finish the job, just thinks, all right, he's dead. And then disappear. The bones fall.
Which is cool.
No, yeah.
But
There's
he
a
goes
lot
back-
to like about it. I just don't understand the logic
me
in a
neither.
Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I know.
It
but
gives everybody time to regroup in the dream world.
it serves its purpose.
So you go to this big room and there's like all these mirrors all over the place, which is a really cool scene. And Freddy's like, what if there's a bunch of me? And he's like in all the mirrors and he's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
grabbing them all and like pulling them through, which is cool. And then Joey finally finds his secret power, which is his voice, because he can't speak in the real world. So he like screams, no!
Right. Like Black Adam, or what is that guy's name? And
Darth Vader?
He's like that guy. I think he's from Marvel. He's one of the God character, the Eternals. I think he has like that. When he opens his mouth, it's like a massive like
Yeah, it's like a
super-
sonic boom or some
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. He appeared in that second Doctor Strange movie. He didn't do too well, but
No. But then all the fucking everything shatters. Freddy like covers his ears. Everything shatters. Everybody falls out of the mirrors, which is a really cool scene.
like I
And
said,
then-
they do it a couple times, but it always looks cool.
And you're like, you did it, Joey. Freddy's dead. TM. And because we all fell out of the mirror, so clearly he's dead or something.
They jump to some conclusions for sure. I mean, Nancy does know what Neil's trying to do. It's just she has no idea what the timeline on that is. We never really get a clear-cut answer, like the difference between the time in a dream and the time in real life. Like, there's obviously scenes throughout this entire franchise where it's like something's happening in real life and then it reflects in the dream, but
It is happening at the same time, but this is such a... This would have, if I saw this in the theater, I would have been like, oh my, this is one of the stand out of your fucking seat moments because John Saxon fucking gold glitters into the frame and he's like, I've passed on, Nancy.
see you, princess.
I just wanted to tell you, I just want to say goodbye. And she like hugs John Saxon.
He's also got the police chief fucking jacket
Oh, yeah,
back on.
yeah.
We gotta make sure he has that.
Yeah, he looks like he did in the first movie. Well, because his honor is restored, right?
Well, that's what she thinks.
Before
This is
she,
another great fake out.
before she has a chance to even like react, it's Freddy fucking stabs her right in the chest. Turns out John Saxon's Freddy, and you're like, oh my fucking god, Nancy got it. Like I could imagine in 1987 people watching this and being like, fuck me.
Sean, 2024, after like, again, how many viewings? What the fuck? And I realize Wes Craven in that original draft did also do this, but I love that character,
Sean,
so it upsets me.
We're trying to end the fucking series. We're
I
gonna kill
know.
Nancy so she can't come back, and we're gonna kill Freddy so he can't come back.
Well, she does get her final moment here,
She does.
which is actually great. Where then she grabs the fucking the glove that's inside of her and just pulls it out and like reverses it on Freddy.
Well, he throws it to the side, and then he goes to kill Kristen.
Oh, okay.
And she comes up behind him and grabs his hand and stabs him.
That's what it is.
Now,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
original script, that was it. That's how he died. He stabs him with his own glove, and I don't know what explodes or something.
Right, because the first one she does do that, but then it kind of ends where she's like, you don't longer have power over me because you don't exist, kind of thing.
She also pulls him into the real world. It's a different
Sure.
kind of thing. They're in the dream world.
That's why I don't want to rip too much on the bone thing
Yeah.
because they did do that in the first one, but it just feels like very arbitrary.
Again, so here we go because
Yeah.
because Neil pushes the bones into the fucking hole, and he's got the holy water, and he's like,
Oh yeah.
ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and he's throwing this holy water on it. And in the dream, Freddy's being like ripped, and like lights coming out of him from wherever the water hits him.
The ILM special.
Yeah, there you go. And then he takes the cross and throws it on him and like lands on his head like fucking Evil Ed from Fright Night, and he's got the cross on his head.
Yeah.
And he just kind of spins around and dissipates.
Yeah.
It's not really extravagant, but it's also okay with me. I think it's fine.
Yeah, and then Nancy seemingly dies in Kristen's arms, and she's trying to kind of like encourage her in her final moments.
I love Patricia Arquette's acting here, and she's really feeling the loss of Nancy, and she's like telling her things. I'm sure it's all ad-libbed, but she's like, "I'm gonna dream you into a beautiful place that you'll be forever," and all this stuff. It's pretty sad.
Oh, it is.
So, yeah.
And then cut to our third or fourth funeral of the film, our final one. Just the confirmation that, yes, they even make a point to say her name in case you're unsure.
Nancy is dead.
Nancy Thompson.
Yeah.
I was kind of holding out hope that it was Dad or one of the other, Will maybe. But no, Nancy's fucking dead, and Gordon's all broken up about it, of course.
What fucking Joker is burying Nancy Thompson that close to Amanda Krueger?
Well, it ain't John Saxon, so it must be an aunt or uncle that doesn't know the story.
Right? Because Neil like sees the nun and like goes around like this big mausoleum, and there's like this little gravestone, and it says Amanda Krueger,
Dun, dun, dun.
Sister Mary, whatever,
Helena, yeah.
Helena,
yeah.
and he's like, oh my god, it was her the whole time. I didn't know that.
It was Mrs. Krueger.
We don't even get a wrap up with the other kids. It's just Neil.
Yeah.
And like Neil goes home and he's sleeping, and there's this pull out shot, and you see the good dream doll.
Yeah. The Malaysian
Malaysian
doll.
dream doll. And then you see the paper mache house.
As I guess his remembrance of Nancy.
And the last shot is the lights coming on. Now, this was changed.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the recording.
Yeah.
Kind of wish this was in the movie.
So the way that it's framed at the end of this film, the execs were like, nah, fuck that. They put a stinger there, the lights come on, and you're like, oh shit, Freddy's still alive. Because we want to make another sequel, baby.
Because Gordon's secretly the last Elm Street kid.
Part 4! And it
Well,
doesn't
right.
really make much sense when you do it that way, but like the original intention was that Nancy was still on the other side and kind of watching over Neil and his
and
dreams.
Kristen also,
And
yeah.
but Kristen, right.
Because there's the scene is he
But Kristen isn't dead.
right, but in the scene in question that they didn't shoot,
Yeah.
he's like talking to her in a hospital bed, and she explains that all to him.
And she's like, oh, she'll always be watching or whatever. And the lights are supposed to be Nancy turning the lights on in the Elm Street house, kind of being like, that's the final thing. And now I'm the protector or some shit.
Of Neil and the dream children.
Because it's kind of like a sweet ending.
Yeah.
And the way that they frame it at the end of the actual movie is like, oh, Freddy's still alive.
Well, and again, like, I like that original ending to that first one because it is so out of left field, but
Sure.
it is also like, well, we got to repeat the first movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like they might have done something like that in 2, but I can't recall. But
Because the thing with the first one was just like a fun thing they put at the end, like, oh shit, is it a dream? Like, what is not a dream? What is a dream kind of thing? And
Yeah,
that kind of leaves you with a crazy feeling when
Right.
you leave that movie.
which I had always heard conflicting reports on how that movie actually ended, but I looked it up before we did this review, and it was like, no, Wes was totally into it.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, this is funny. Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's it wasn't exactly what he thought of initially, but that's what they landed on.
Yeah.
I always thought the story was that he hated it, but I proved me wrong. Internet.
That was it. We kick up that fucking docking. We finally get the Dream Warriors theme song, which I love so
Yes.
much, and that's it.
That's the end.
So where are we putting this, man?
It's on the shelf. High on the fucking shelf, man. I still do prefer the original, but yeah, this is easily the best sequel in the franchise. I think, again, I'll have to rewatch it because it's been over 10 years, but like maybe New Nightmare might be like close second best sequel. Because 4 and 5, they're fine, but I just can't get over the story implications in those films, and the whole leaning into the Amanda Krueger thing in those later sequels, I just think it's too much.
Hey, I agree.
But where she's here, I have nitpicks about the character, but it's like kind of a side thing so Gordon can get that information and just to give the audience some little bit more background on Freddy. Take it or leave it. But the movie as a whole, it's shot great. It's edited really well. Just the way that things are cut together, the pacing is incredible in this. There's very few lulls throughout. And usually if you want to call them lulls, those are those kind of like plot dump moments or the scenes with Neil and Nancy kind of trying to figure shit out.
It never feels like hurry up, though.
That's what I mean by that.
It feels important, everything they're saying.
Maybe at the end, but that's kind of what you want in a climax. The characters love Kincaid, Nancy, even like Gordon, Freddy, of course, obviously, and John Saxon. Yeah, he's drunk. He's out of it, but he has a good little cameo there at the end. And like I said earlier, the music's great in this. Again, it's hard not to just keep comparing to the original. Hopefully I don't sound like a fucking broken record here, but...
I mean, it's the sequel.
Yeah,
if you needed it.
But I don't really buy soundtracks, but if I was going to, this and one, I'd buy, probably Friday 3 is one that comes to mind.
Oh, we got it upstairs.
But solid ass soundtrack, and then like the actual music soundtrack too, if you know what I mean, like the musical part and then the actual
score and then the soundtrack.
Right. I'd probably buy both. They're both really solid on this. Not that we really ever talk about that, but I was just thinking about that. I don't know. One of the best, I would even argue, slasher sequels ever. I mean, there is definitely some debates for, like, in my opinion, like Scream and Friday the 13th. You could maybe make an argument for some of those sequels too, but I don't know. I think Nightmare 3 might be the best horror sequel.
I agree.
In the slasher subgenre, at least.
Sure.
Argument could be made for horror as a whole, but I'm not trying to go there with it today. Just a really great film. It holds up amazing. There's really nothing in there where you're like screaming at, like, oh, I wish they didn't say that. Oh, this doesn't hold up. But it's a great ride, man.
Absolutely, dude. And yeah, this is on the shelf for me too, man. It's my favorite of the Elm Street sequels. I mean, it might be my favorite Elm Street. I really like the original. I really like the original. I like what it does. And if we didn't have that film, we wouldn't have any of these films. So I think that first one is unique overall, and I think that's why it has stood the test of time for that concept, which is really cool. I mean, there's other Dream Demon movies.
Inception.
Dream Maniac. Yeah, all kinds. There's a few different films that do it, but not as well. And it was the first. So, but as far as horror movie sequels goes, I think this takes the fucking taco, with the except, like, for this particular series.
Oh yeah.
Easily the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. I like it better than New Nightmare. I mean, I think New Nightmare was a good course correct, or like a good ending, quote unquote, for like the end. Like, if the last movie was Freddy's Dead, I'd be pissed.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. I know a lot of people like that movie, and that's your opinion, and you can have it, and that's fine. I have nothing against you, but this is my opinion. But yeah, 3 just really is a perfect storm of everything that this franchise, in my opinion, really has to offer. With the original movie, you don't know who Freddy Krueger is. That's the thing. It's the mystery of who is this guy with this hat and this finger knives, and we don't get the reveal until like towards the end of the film.
That's why I like Friday 1.
Right, and you don't know exactly, right, and that's kind of the allure of the first one for me. You have this guy killing people in their dreams. Who the fuck is he? Why is he doing it? And all that kind of stuff, and that's the mystery of the first one, and the roller coaster that you get,
the thriller element for sure.
Right, and it's kind of like I understand why it was like, well, how do we do this again in an interesting way?
Again,
I think that I think 2 succeeds with being unique to that, where like Freddy wants to like manifest himself within like a body, so he can like kill people in reality rather than their dreams, which is kind of cool. Which I really like that because of that. But 3 is like the safe way to do it.
Sure,
especially the changes that Darabont and Russell made to it. They made it a mainstream movie. They added the dark humor, they lightened it up a little bit, they made it more fun, and they made it more again, I don't want to compare it to like something like the Monster Squad or something like that, but it has this kind of air to it that's more, how do I put this?
Because I was going to say Texas Chainsaw 2, but that's even like more over the top silly.
No, I don't want to say over the top. It's way more involved than the first movie. There's more characters, there's more story, there's a lot more to chew through, but I think it does it in a really, really good way. There's a solid ass base there, and I think it all works together really well. I like the addition of kind of having, well, how do we fight this dream demon? Oh, well, this person is able to bring other people into their dreams, which is kind of cool. And the idea of having dream powers to fight Freddy is kind of neat, while not overpowering Freddy, but also giving them a little bit more meat on the bone than rather than just like people in the dream world.
At least the first time they tried this concept.
Yeah. And it's the most effective one is this one. And that's kind of it. You can't do this again. And I think that's why 4 and 5 fail, because this is a perfect storm of that. And how do you do this again without doing it again? Do you know what I mean?
Immediately retreading territory, which that's why this one works so well. Outside of the Freddy character and Nancy, it's totally new.
Yeah. And I think that's why Freddy vs. Jason works, because it pretty much follows the same formula as this in terms of like
for what it is,
yeah. In terms of like, well, how do you get Freddy? You got to beat him in the dream world, or you got to pull him out to the real world to beat him or whatever. And how do you do that? Well, you do it with Jason, so that works. But like,
and he does,
yeah.
Well, beat him, that's debatable with that ending. But...
Right. But the concept is there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a fitting ending to the Nightmare series. I think Wes, albeit it's not completely his script. I think that like it really worked the best as kind of the ending to the series. You know, you have your hero send off, you have Freddy send off, which is debatable whether that's the best time that he was dispatched or not. But some of the best effects of the series, some of the best sequences of the series, and definitely the best writing outside of the first movie.
Easily.
Easy. Best characters, best writing. I think 5 has a better set design. In a different way.
That one also, I think, had Screaming Mad George, so why not?
Right, and I really like all the setting of 5, and I think I said on that episode with Tony that like 5 would be my favorite if it had Freddy from part 2.
Like that version of him.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as Freddy goes in this movie, I mentioned it earlier. I know this is a little bit long-winded, but this is another reason why I'm always hesitant to do these, because I have a lot to say.
Yeah. A lot of history.
Yeah, because there's so much to kind of tackle. So anyway, I digress. Freddy in this movie doesn't reach ridiculous levels.
Nah.
He's still pretty fucking scary for most of this, and you don't see, he's mostly in the shadows in this movie.
Oh yeah, especially in the first half of the film.
I was so surprised how much he's not in the movie and what you remember. You know what I mean?
It's like Beetlejuice. I mean, Beetlejuice actually in it way less, but it's the same kind of idea where he's only in it like 15 minutes.
Yeah, but that's okay.
That's all you need.
That's okay. That's all you need.
He might be in it for like a half hour.
But he's still a presence, right? When he shows up, he's still a presence. He's still scary.
You're waiting for him.
Yeah, he's making a quip, but he's not winking at the camera.
Not yet, right.
You know what I mean? Like, welcome to primetime, bitch. Like, he meant that shit when he said it. He wasn't like, welcome to primetime, bitch. You know, he was like,
it was serious. Yeah.
It was
It's cheeky.
And that's why it worked, right? For all intents and purposes, the reason the dark humor works in this is because it's not tongue-in-cheek so much as it is playing it straight. And I feel like they lost that fucking thread when we get to the next movie.
Well, yeah, and at the risk of repeating myself, that's kind of like one of my biggest problems with this character going forward. It's just like, I don't know if this was a problem them just letting Robert off the fucking chain, or just the writers, or a little bit of column A and column B, but it's just like the character is a child fucking murderer piece of shit. Why are we rooting for this guy? And like, listen, I love Robert Englund. I love this character, but I just feel like I know I'm in the minority just based on what I read online from other people's opinions, and let us know in the comments too. But it's just, to me, I love the character, but why are we glorifying this fucking sick bastard? And I get it, he's like the best part of those movies the further we get into the franchise, but I just could never wrap my damn head around
You
that.
mean rooting for him?
Yeah, like rooting for, because you always hear that. People say, I'm rooting for the killer, and it's like, I can understand that, but me personally, I never really did that. Like, I love Jason, but I'm never really rooting for him per se.
No, I liked the fear that I get from it. I don't necessarily like, kill him because he sucks. Like, it's
some characters,
and it's like, well, some characters, but most of the time you're like, fuck, that guy died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's fun to be scared. That's the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
But when I don't know. I mean, I guess tomato, but like, you know, that's why I think like the next 2 installments don't really work that well, because the story's not strong enough and the characters aren't that strong.
Well, also that basically they're implying Freddy as a baby or some shit, but that's a whole different can of worms.
Freddy's reborn in Nightmare 5 because of the events of 4, but like right out of the gate in 4, they kill Kincaid and Joey, and they kill Kristen, and then it's passed to Alice, and you're like, who the fuck is this bitch? Why do I give a shit?
We give Alice the powers because we lost Patricia Arquette. We have this other woman that doesn't really look like the character anymore, so I guess we gotta kill her.
Poor Tuesday Night.
Right, yeah.
And it was, I don't know, by the time they die in the 4th movie, you're like, okay, I don't give a shit. Like, they should have lasted at least till the final act. Or like the top of Act 3, you know?
Well, right. And the first one has such a small group of characters, and even the second one, that when they're killed, it's well-paced, like the way it's like broken up.
And you care about it.
You do. Yeah. And then like, especially that scene in 2 when his best friend is like in the room with him, like, holy shit,
oh,
that's
God,
terrifying.
when Freddy's like coming out of him.
That's probably the best part of 2.
It's really excellent.
But
and
like,
the parents like hear him being killed on the other side of the door. 2's really good. And it's scary.
It is. But then like this one, just to that point I was trying to make, they have way more characters, just period. Like the doctors, the actual Dream Warriors, but it all works. There's no step missed.
There's a good balance.
I love it.
Yeah. I love it too. I think it's great. I think it is the best Nightmare on Elm Street sequel is part 3. Dream
Easily.
Warriors.
And so before dog pisses on Freddy's bones, if you want some more Movie Dumpster content, you can head over to patreon.com/Movie Dumpster. We have a $2 tier where you can get a free audio version of the show, or a $5 and $10 tier where you can also get yourself a glow-in-the-dark Movie Dumpster pin, a t-shirt. We have live watch-alongs where we watch a movie with you guys, the Dumpster Dwellers, and we kind of commentate over it. We also do have commentary tracks, which is a different thing entirely, where we talk over a movie and you line it up like riff tracks. I've never really explained that on one of these, I don't think.
Uh-oh, we're going to get sued now.
Yeah, but that's the idea on the 5 and 10s, and then we also do mini-sodes occasionally. So if any of that piques your interest, check us out, patreon.com/Movie Dumpster.
And if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit like and subscribe. I know it's kind of redundant because you're already on YouTube, but hey, some people forget. You're so enthralled in the video, you forget to do that, and it really helps the video reach more people. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, hitting that 5-star review and leaving a review really helps us too. So if you don't have any extra scratch, we know times are tight, the economy kind of sucks right now, you don't have to spend a dime. You want to support us? Leave us that review, like it on YouTube, share the video with people, and get some more Dumpster Dwellers up in this dumpster community.
And if you want to keep up with the Dumpster Boys and see what we've been up to, you can always follow us at Movie Dumpster on social media, or head over to MovieDumpsterPodcast.com. If you want to see our upcoming events, we have a whole section there, a little calendar you can find. We also have all our episodes on there where you can get links to your favorite podcast apps or to YouTube. And plus, we also have a store on there. You can get yourself some MD gear. Get yourself a Goro t-shirt if you're interested. Goro's got nards. We got it. Talks from the dark side. We got a little bit of everything on there. So check us out at MovieDumpsterPodcast.com.
So that's it. That's A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors from 1987, directed by Chuck Russell. I'm Joe Lascola.
And I'm Sean O'Rourke.
Thanks for visiting the dumpster!